Hello and welcome to episode 152 of The Imperial Truth. My name's Greg. Joining me as ever, Mr. Howard. How you doing, Howard?
I'm very well, thank you, Greg. You doing all right?
Yeah, can't grumble, plodding along as we do.
Not too bad as we steam into 22.
Yes, indeed. It's interesting. Let's say that. I was hoping to get this out absolutely on time, but life, frankly.
We're getting close. We're getting closer, though. Come on, we got to be clawing this back. Well, we can do it. We can get onto a schedule.
Yeah. We'll be fine. It's not a problem. It's all, what could go wrong, as they say. Before we go anywhere, Element Games for all your whatever you need in the hobby. Paints. I've got a load of Citadel paints. I did a contrast order the other day to expand my range.
Nice.
Turned up pretty much the next day. It's like boom. That's exactly what I needed.
I saw some very good tutorials, sort of extended tutorials. Obviously, people have been working with them for a long time on contrast paints. Squidmar did some interesting reflecting on them, having initially not struggled with them, but wasn't sure how to use them, and he completely turned the other direction and went, actually, I'm a big fan of these, putting them through an airbrush. Big fan of using them in that.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
Or just in general, over the top of a Zenithal or a basic black and white base coat, highlighting type base coat, put the colour over that. Loves them.
Yeah, I can see that. I got, because I'm still working on my Gargants for Age of Sigmar. I haven't been able to do a huge amount of hobby. Been too busy with things for the last month. But, so great for that. Just needed some extra colours. And then I'm started working on my old world vampire counts. And was trying to play around with getting different tones. And you know what? Contrast straight over black has its place. Yeah. It's like surprising how well it works. So yeah, especially when you're building up the layers and things. So great stuff. But you can get all that from Element Games. I think my friend was due to buy an airbrush from them actually. I must see if he's done that. He's upgrading. Problems with his airbrush, so I was going for the old Harder Steam Mech combo.
Okay.
Which is quite good. Just reminds people like you can get so much stuff from Element. Absolutely fantastic. And now they've got stores in Nottingham and Sheffield.
I would like to go and visit one of their
I don't think
in-person stores.
Quite as big, but there's some cool stuff going on. That's what we like to see.
When we can get up to shiny Nottingham.
So I wasn't going to go to I'm not going to go to the 25th anniversary thing because it's only half a day.
I had a look at that as well, and I've got a feeling that elder gamers like ourselves perhaps aren't the target market.
Yeah, and there's that as well.
I mean, I love a collaring competition as much as the next person, but arguably more than the next person. But I've got a feeling that might not be the premiere event for us to head to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was like, I won't go to that. It's not really worth it for me. And then I was speaking to Emma because next episode might be late. We're just for those who aren't aware, we're going to be induced on the 1st of March. So I'm hoping to get the episode pre-recorded, and then I can a little bit earlier than normal, and then I can put it up before we go into hospital on the 1st, or maybe I can actually get around to. I could just actually set it up so it posts at the right time if I can remember how to do it. But either way, we're doing it a bit early. But Willow, what are you doing? So if you can hear noises, Willow's in here today, deciding to be a naughty cat instead of Magnus. Bless her. She's very likely to pull something off the side, probably my iPad. Where was I? I lost my track. It's all good. I was thinking.
Speaking of people, your responsibilities.
I'm going to be slightly, 2 weeks out of action, like worrying about Little and then the rest of my life, completely disrupted. So I was like, I really want to get up to Nottingham soon. Should I just go up one weekend? And I'm like, if I was going to do that, why wouldn't I have done that for the 25th and just met up with people? Like, but it's that whole planning and meeting up with people. It never quite works out how you want it to. So, not doing it, but I am missing that trip to Nottingham. It will have to be done at some point.
Definitely. It's just waiting for an excuse, really. Yeah. Although it's tempting just to do the pilgrimage anyway.
Yeah, it just feels like I did go up. I stopped off in September on the way up to Company of Legends, but it feels like that one wasn't quite the same as normal, and I don't even know if it would be right now. I say it's all a bit different anyway because of the staff not all being in the same venue. Like some of my friends now work in the other part in the gateway, so it's not quite as easy to say, I'll meet you at Bugman's.
Yeah.
It would have to be an evening thing. But hey, I'll sort something out at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, Element Games. Go buy stuff.
Go visit them as well. Yeah.
Use the link in the show notes, and you can also use either Howard or my codes at the end when you get your double crystals to support us in that way as well. We appreciate anyone who does any of that. Thank you very much. So you've been moving house, so
well, ripping the house apart and taking refuge in the at the in-laws while we do some converting of a larger nature, converting that house into a much more suitable gaming space. That's clearly the only reason we're doing it. Definitely.
Indeed.
No one talked to my wife, but that's definitely not.
I'm going to get you a sign which says Howard's Imaginarium.
I think that's entirely appropriate. We can it's accommodation for when I'm hosting gaming weekends. That's what I'm going to tell everyone. Definitely.
I thought of you earlier today. Actually, I saw someone post a huge T-Rex printed on an 8K printer.
Nice.
It was huge.
Okay.
I was like, that's the kind of thing Howard would be into.
It's when I start getting into the outbuilding, going into the shed. When I get there, once we finish this work, that's going to be the next much further off objective. Then we can start getting into some serious workshop options.
Know it. If you do notice that the sound has changed, we're making adjustments on the fly. Do forgive me. I know that you guys aren't coming here for perfect audio.
Whoa! What are you talking about? We're always striving for perfection with this. Constant on-the-fly tweaks. Nothing wrong with that.
If anyone knows me, they know that's not happening. I was listening to... I was watching Get Back, the Beatles documentary on Disney Plus, which is not for everyone, let's face it, but I've watched the first half, like 2 hours 40 or whatever it is, and it's phenomenal. And I just can't understand, like, they're literally talking about how rubbish the music sounds in their recording space, and I'm listening to the audio going, it sounds so good. Like, the speech and everything.
How can it possibly be this good?
It's almost like they had the best in the world, like, around them, helping out and then touching it up. I can imagine Peter Jackson just going, no, make it better. But yeah, no, thoroughly cool. But yeah, I thought of you with that 8K printer. I thought there's someone on Facebook was like, I want to do the Walls of Terror with it. And it's like, that would be expensive, but also, don't tell Howard that.
You've all got to have dreams. You've got to have dreams and goals for these things.
Apologies, listeners. My cat has decided to get into the shelving, third shelf up, on one of my many shelving units where she doesn't have enough room.
I quite like the element of danger we're adding into this. There's an element of tension that at any moment your entire collection of models could be smashed to pieces.
Yeah, no, not models, thankfully, but books and other bits and pieces. And I could just hear this noise going on. She's gone now. There's not even enough place. I don't know how she gets her feet there. Gosh, she's Magnus is a pain in the rear, but when Willow wants to be a pain, she's way worse. Magnus doesn't have enough energy to be that annoying. Bless him. But hey ho. So you've been sorting house.
There isn't, and it does remind you that as I sent a message around to some friends, I said, well, that's I'm now out of the miniature wargaming hobby. I'm out. I might drop. I'm not doing this anymore. I clearly have overdone it. I've got too much stuff, it's a luxury problem to have when you're finding those things, but it just gets a bit ridiculous when you've been collecting since you're 12. You find you've been doing it for 30 years. You think, I have hoarded badly, and it does.
There are ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's a healthier way of doing it, I think, of selling things and being a little bit
clinical,
tighter on the on keeping on top of things and saying, okay, I'm not using that. I'm not going to just keep hold of that for nostalgia, even though I picked up a copy of Space Crusade the other day. But let's not go into that.
That's all right, just as long as you are getting rid of something else.
Yeah,
which is
let's go with that. Yeah,
indeed. I've decided to keep a log this year, to try and keep a log of like purchases versus sales.
Oh, I've heard other people doing this.
I have sold a couple of things. I'm like result, and I've got some more actually that I'm moving on. And then I was like, no, I've done well. There's a really good offer for some Age of Sigmar Crawl Boy stuff, so I jumped on that. I'm like, that's fine. I get in there early, and I bought my little Necromancer for the old world. Perfect. Oh, actually thinking about it. Oh no, that was before Christmas. That's fine. That was before January. I did buy a load of Age of Sigmar, load of Warhammer stuff before January at the Bring and Buy at the club. So that doesn't count. And then I was like, finally put my order in for my Adeptus Titanicus Knights that I wanted to boost up my Knight Force to eventually get sorted. And well, that was 200 quid gone, and I'd reduced it from 305. I was like, oh Lord. But
is that some Forge World Knights in there? Or
that's Forge, yes. That's like not very many Forge World Knights.
That makes some sense there.
Okay. That's the Acastus, the new Acastus. 2 sets of the Armigers, and then the Magira and Styrics.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 Magira, 1 Styrics, because someone's got a swap on one of the Styrics. And I had to put back the second Acastus and the other 2 boxes of Armigers for now. Or the variations.
It does get a bit painful, doesn't it?
Like, that is expensive. Yeah, Forge World they've obviously had that little step up in some of their pricing, like the newer Knight stuff. Like the Acastus it's hard. It's a hard justification. And that's fair enough. It is what it is at the end of the day. But that one's a little bit like oosh, hitting the guts.
But, because we got that little revealed new Titan. That's going to be an interesting price point when that comes along. When that was revealed to be Forge World only.
Yeah, the Direwolf. Yeah. I'm not.
I think that could be pricey.
I'm not sold on the Direwolf yet.
It's got to be seen in person. I agree with you. And on first look, I think okay, there's some decisions have been made there. For me, I think there are other directions I think would have enhanced it, but you can't make those calls definitively until you've seen it in person.
No, and at the end of the day, so I mean, we haven't talked about it yet on my Titanicus podcast, Full Stride, but I would put money on Matt loving it because it fits the old aesthetic very well. Henry Steele quite liked it for that kind of reason as well, and those people who like it. I'm not as wedded to the older style, so
which I'm really looking forward to listening to the Henry Steele conversation actually, but I've got that queued up. Well, what older aesthetic are they referring to?
The older Titans, the older Adeptus Titanicus aesthetic.
So
you had Titans with smaller arms, didn't you, back then?
Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, so like the original Warhound.
And it's more like a Lucius pattern Warhound as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking blockier. It's got that. Yeah,
feels blockier.
I've seen a lot of references to the Chaos Subjugator Titans. They were the Slaneshi sort of knights, sort of Titans.
And I don't mind. I appreciate the calls back, and sometimes I like parts of them. If this game was more heavily designed towards the old style, people do the upgrades for their Warhounds to look like the old ones with a really thin body. I don't like them at all. And it's not a criticism. It's just style.
It's not for you. Yeah, it's not for you. Yeah.
I'm never going to own one of them. As simple as I don't think they look good, but that's fine. I'm not going to own any, so it's not a problem. But yeah, I can see the Direwolf being a split along people who have a bit of an older, stylistic appreciation. I've sent you a link in the
I've seen
Skype
it.
because I found that picture.
I'm already.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah, it's
see
a
what you
small
mean.
Asian woman. I mean, I don't think she's big, but that dinosaur is as big as her.
Yeah, it's enormous.
It's
I
ridiculous.
can't tell if that's been done in a single print. If it is,
that's the kind of insinuation, isn't it?
Looking at it, it looks like there's a join on the leg. Either way, that is incredible as a piece of printing.
Yeah.
It does say what can be
if
done.
you look up Frozon, Phrozen on Facebook, the Sonic Mega 8K does look amazing. We'll put that away. We're not doing that. Put that and Fight Your Titans.
Yeah, exactly. Do that that night hunting mission.
Yeah, indeed, with one of them
Molech.
down.
Yeah, the Molech hunting.
It's for all those people who've actually built their imperators, so they can actually use them. Anyway, it's all good. I haven't done much Heresy hobbying. Like I say, life and getting other projects up.
I've been taking a little sort of mobile set around with me in this move. I've got sat on the side there. I've got a few paints put together, a little emergency paint set. I'd never unpacked it from when we went away just after New Year, so I've got my Thousand Suns out for some work when I got a bit of downtime. I've got a Land Raider I want to paint up. That I've got all customized, and I've got just the basic troops and things, all the staples, that sort of stuff is what I want to try and get done. So I've got some of those on the go, and really enjoying painting them at the moment. Actually, the candy scheme is the first time I've done one, and I'm a fan. Although painting certain colours over the top of a very glossy finish is not the nicest experience in the world. Got to work that out. But yeah, that's my hobby, and like you say, it's not been a great deal. It's because it's hobby on a slightly different scale at the moment. Hobby, converting on a slightly different scale.
Yeah. Hopefully there'll be a bit of time when little one's here that, while they sleep. I appreciate it's not going to be, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or anything like that. But when they're very little and they're not able to do anything except just sleep and you're keeping an eye on them, kind of thing. Henry's been saying he's been getting a lot of building done. Not necessarily painting, but building. But who knows? I say lots of things all the time. I'll probably end up just like zoning out playing the PlayStation, like where it's like mindless. But we'll see.
I did give in the other evening, having set up my PC partly so we could do this. I did give in and buy Command and Conquer, the remastered edition, the other day, because it's on sale as we speak.
And Warhammer 3's out soon, so I'm like holding off.
Yeah, there's a few of those, isn't there? There's a few things on the wish list.
It's dangerous. The Grey Knight one. The what's it called again?
Chaos Gate.
Chaos Gate. That's the one with the Grey Knights. Yeah.
That does look good. I played Chaos Gate the time it came out on the PC a long time ago, and that was good fun. So do just read of it. They just need to remake Final Liberation, and then we're done.
We're getting there.
What's the other one they've got coming? There's another one. We're off topic here slightly, but there's one coming. It's basically orcs crossed with worms. Worms as in the game.
What it is? Yeah.
There's something like that coming, and that looks quite good fun.
Yeah, I might have to grab that because Worms is fantastic.
That actually looked quite stylish. Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
And then Space Marine 2, but we'll get into that. We'll actually talk about that a little bit later on anyway.
Heresy mod, yes please.
One thing I forgot to write on our list, which I've just remembered, Humble have got a Warhammer, a Black Library bundle.
Oh, cool.
So there are, you can either get a 6, a 14 or a 25 item bundle. So 25 items is £13.26. Belisarius Call the Great Work, which is a fantastic book. Covenants of Blood, The Oubliette, horror novel. Flesh and Steel by Guy Haley, which has got good reception. Soulless Fury, Necromunda novel. Jagatai Khan, Conrad Kurz, Titanicus, Brutal Cunning, which went down well. Dante, Demon's Curse, which is brilliant for Warhammer. Dead Men Walking, haven't read. Valdor, Avenging Sun, which has got mixed reception. Cadian Honor, Justin Hill's a fan of a friend of the show, so it's cool. Stormvault, Rinsworld, Bloodlines by Chris Wright. Fear to Tread, Ghoulslayer, Devastation of Baal, Solar War, Dark Harvest, Fist of the Imperium, and Valador for £13. So
it's insane, isn't it?
It is insane. There's a good mix there, and there's some books. Maybe I'll jump on that. I don't know. I've got a massive to-read list as it is. But yeah, you can check out that. Should we talk about a big demon?
The big guy. The general himself.
Yeah, the LVO 2022 reveal. As usual, going into this, I hoped that we might see something about a new box set, but in reality, I was expecting 2 Praetors. And instead, we got something far cooler.
Much bigger.
We got
much bigger.
Much bigger. Carbander. So, I mean, people have been trying to make size charts for how big this guy is. He's going to be big, like to the top of the wings. He's going to be big. I don't know that
with
he's
marine
necessarily...
on the base. That marine on the base helps for scale, and he is enormous.
He is big. I don't know necessarily if he's going to be bigger than my Mersh Miniatures demon that I've got on a night base.
In terms of mass, I suspect he wonon't be as chunky, but I think in terms of dimensions, I think he could be with those wings.
I think the fact that his left wing sticks out, maybe because the other one's a bit more folded, but the right one is a very similar pose. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the twisted forward wing. I think they twisted it too far forwards. I know a lot of people, there's some snidey comments. Some were snidey, some were genuine about like his wing's upside down. And it's like, well, it's obviously rotate. They haven't just stuck a wing on that. This is
another one of those examples. It's going to look completely different in 3D. I'm really interested to see what it's like with the things like the whip curling round. That looks like that could be very cool.
My first thought with that wing, though, I'm not going to put this together because I hate building big resin kits. Luckily, my mate Dan, who will build it for me, is going to get one as well. For Age of Sigmar, I should think, maybe 40k as well. But my first thought is if that wing was 90 degrees, was horizontal, that would help. But we'll have to see.
That's going to be quite a straightforward adjustment with the resin.
It depends how it fits in. Depends if it's...
but I mean, there's enough, particularly something membranous like that. You could just, I reckon, a bit of heat on that. That'll twist that around.
It's quite
maybe.
Join
actually.
at the shoulder.
Also, the scary part is that it snaps.
Yeah. And it depends if it's a big V or something into it. Then it's going to be harder to do. But either way, if it's cut off and just repositioned, you'd pin it anyway and then just green stuff around it if you're any good, which I'm not. But I'll get someone. That's why I pay someone to build that for me. But yeah, it's a fantastic model, like old school Bloodthirster.
Big time. The weapons look great. I find the proportions of things like the hands and the feet are a bit strange for me. They sit a bit strangely comfortably. Massive hands, massive hooves. But that's kind of goes with the territory. Exactly that. It's a demon. That's the answer, isn't it? It's a demon. You got to use it. The face is incredibly good, incredibly evocative.
Yeah, proper old school Bloodthirster, that, isn't it? In fact, I was listening to My Life in Miniatures podcast, which is a fairly new one, run by my mind's gone blank. Bear with me a second. I will make sure I get this right. Heresy and Heroes on Twitter at Heresy Heroes runs a blog. And he was talking to Sasha from the Hate Club about who got into GW before they were doing Warhammer. So it was all D&D and stuff like that. And how a lot of Khorne is linked to the pit fiends and stuff from D&D, which obviously have other links as well, but it's definitely in this brute of a head. It's fantastic. I love it, absolutely love it, and it's great to see something this big coming out for Heresy. I think.
Agreed. Yeah, it was interesting when they had Heresy featured quite so prominently. Well, I was probably reading too much into it, like we all do with our hopes. But seeing it featured so prominently in the build-up, it was interesting to see what it was going to be. It felt like it wasn't and we're going to cover these extra things as well, but the real big show is this. I felt it got... I mean, this is a significant release.
What I liked on the build-up is each day they led it they led the lineup and model things with a different one.
Mm-hmm.
So one day it was Age of Sigmar at the top, one day it was Heresy, and all that. But possibly the bigger thing from that from Carbana, because it's only going to be useful for people playing. I mean, obviously they can sell it into 40k, and they're going to give him Age of Sigmar rules by the sounds of it.
It specifically it mentions it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to sell across 3 games, because otherwise it's only Demon players that can use it in Heresy. Obviously, some people just buy it 'cause it's a cool model, but we saw right towards the end, everyone's seen probably most people have seen the new logo, but what is nice is the old logo appears and then burns away.
Yeah, and it's burned through and replaced.
Logo.
Yeah, that was quite
fantastic. Cool. And so this new logo, it's very much more in the modern style, isn't it? Warhammer across the top, labelled within Warhammer, so it's identifiable. The Horus Heresy is almost a subheading.
As a sub-brand. It's interesting that it breaks the link with Warhammer 40,000. Because I can see that being confusing in some ways. Hang on, 40,000, how does that work? Warhammer 40,000, the Horus Heresy. It clearly differentiates it as its own thing, but under the Warhammer brand, which is obviously what they're branding everything from the stores through to some people find it completely synonymous. In fact, they're more likely to know Warhammer than they are Games Workshop. I thought it looks cool, and it's keeping the same kind of font and styling of the Horus Heresy, if I recall, with a cool little sort of winged Eye of Horus beneath it. Yeah, I thought it was quite a nice little reveal, that.
It is nice, and
a very deliberate one.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't rebrand something if you haven't got, you don't just do it for the sake of it.
No.
If they're just happy to potter along with Heresy, it would have stayed exactly the same. But this, I believe, is going to be on the new characters that are coming out as well. I haven't received any, but so we're tying in, which also, if it does come on those characters, shows you that we're behind schedule. And in fact, we're going to talk about the January report thing, and there's a comment in there about their new release structure, which is at least 10 weeks behind. They postponed releases at least 10 weeks. Obviously, some stuff has been postponed longer than this. So there's disappointment that we haven't had the box, and that's fair enough. Disappointment with that is fine. I've seen people reacting.
I did see some people just freaking out over that.
The chat was terrible. The chat is always terrible.
It always is. You just turn it off. I mean, you should just turn it off. Exactly. Almost by instinct now. It's just awful.
Well, I was actually watching at work in the morning, so it was just kind of, I wasn't really watching. I was like, oh, there's something good happening, so I'll see what's happening, kind of thing, and it was on. So I saw quite a lot of it, and it's like, oh Lord, typical. But I understand some of the frustration. I saw someone posting on Forge World's Facebook page today asking for a roadmap, and you know what? Yeah. I want a roadmap as well. I don't think we're going to get one until they announce a new box. I think that will come after that.
Do you think it's the box? I mean, to me, it's not the box per se. It's the edition. Yeah.
Edition. But that's all tied in with the box.
Okay, yeah. You're using it in Sonata. Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because some people are keen on the box. It seems,
true.
Based on what I've seen people going on about, but I think it's almost interchange. You could use the
term
I think the box is new edition.
Yeah, I think the box is just a new edition release.
Yeah,
a kickstart of an edition.
A launch box.
Yeah. Yes. We've seen today, because we're recording this right at the end of January, an Age of Sigmar, a short-term plan of what's going on, and we've seen.
Well, it's 12 months.
Oh,
it seems.
Is it a full 12 months?
It projects out, I think, to winter. Yeah, it's only 6 books, but it projects out over 22.
Oh, right, okay. And you don't get everything with these anyway. They don't tell you everything.
No. But they just sort of imply they've gone to the next 4.
2 more mystery battle tomes are slated to arrive this summer.
True. It only goes as far as summer. So it's not quite.
So 6 months. It's 3 month. Winter, spring, summer.
Yeah.
Cool. That's fine. Right. Yeah. So you're going to get so much. That's fine. That's cool. 40k. They've told us the next few books. I don't think we're going to get that until we're told. They're not going to tell us. Oh, by the way, you're going to get this, this, and this, and then later announce that the edition's changing. And
that would be
seems nonsensical.
Crazy.
So we can't. We have to wait for that, and then if we don't get it, then kick off. That's fine. That's cool. Go for it, because it would be nice to have that kind of clarity that Necromunda and Blood Bowl and Age of Sigmar 40k and everyone else is getting. What is interesting is, so LVO is a big event, and GW support it. In 2 months' time, we've got Adepticon, which
that I think is looking increasingly
is a bigger event.
It is. That's a significant event.
Yeah, and not to say LVO isn't, but it feels like GW put more in so far. Have put more into their Adepticon reveal show than their LVO reveal show. They put more into their Adepticon reveal show than their Nova reveal show. That doesn't, demean any of those reveal shows.
No,
That's
and
just
any one of them could be.
What we've had.
Any one of them could suddenly become the major or a massive event. But
and
I feel
timing
like
is part of that.
If it's going to be something other than UK Warhammer Fest, if you're going to have a major release at something other than UK Warhammer Fest, Adepticon feels like it would be the one.
Well, yeah. The only issue with that is Warhammer Fest occurs 2 months after Adepticon.
Yeah.
So it's another short window. And that was kind of my next point. So I'm going to stick with. I don't know anything. I'm going to stick with this. This box set was supposed to be out in November, right? There are lots of signs that lead towards that. Now that might be wrong, but there's a logical jump there that isn't too big. Now they've delayed it. There's all these delays going on anyway. Have they pushed it back to a summer release so they can have Age of Sigmar 40k Heresy summer releases?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like too much of an illogical thing to do. Potentially could happen. We've got no Heresy Weekender. There's no big Heresy day to do those things. So where does it get released? Potentially. That seems like a sensible move if they want it to make the biggest impact they can, when do they tell us about the big summer release? When do we get the first info from that? Warhammer Fest. And if you want to relaunch a big game, when do you first announce it? At your biggest show? I wouldn't be surprised if the first official news we hear of it is at the Warhammer Fest preview, or what would be the Warhammer Fest preview.
A launch of this significance, but then this is the same of something like, as you say, it's no more significant really than a 40k release or an Age of Sigmar
Titanicus
release, as in this. It was. You don't tend to get a teaser. I've heard people discuss, and these are people with YouTube channels and things now who used to work for the publication side of GW, who would say, it's a big release when there's a teaser for the teaser. Then there's and if there's an animated teaser trailer thing, it's a significant release because they're putting resources into it.
Yeah.
It's costing them money in terms of resources for paying for people's time, etc. Not outsourcing even internally. So it's a significant release. I can't imagine them teasing an edition release. I don't remember them ever teasing something, teasing it at Adepticon for the big announcement to be at Warhammer Fest. I think it doesn't quite work. It does. The time frames don't quite work.
When 40k was redone, they did kind of say something's coming at Warhammer Fest, but that was like a couple of weeks before, if I recall.
That's the time frame I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I can see there being a teaser before Warhammer Fest, but it's like 2 weeks out max.
Exactly.
And then you get the announcement and the reveal, and then it's a couple of weeks after that.
If we compare this to, say, Adeptus Titanicus, take it down a step from 40k, or a few steps, we were first properly shown that at Warhammer Fest, and then it was released late summer. It just seems to fit.
Yeah, I could see it being that.
So yeah, that's just my 5 cents on that. I know people getting very worked up about the excitement builds, and that's cool. Just as long as it's measured within that. But I think now, great if it turns up beforehand and I'm wrong, cool, whatever. But if we don't get it at Warhammer Fest, then I'm probably going to start come on, we've seen pictures.
Now I'm keen. Yeah, now it's nearly a year.
You've done a whole new logo and everything else, and what are you doing with it, chaps? yeah, we shall see. But it's more fuel on the fire, which is all good.
But yeah, new logo looks cool, and
yes,
the
absolutely.
fact they've announced the logo, we're all moving in an interesting direction.
Yeah, and I say that might have been forced because of product being released with that on. But either way, it's good news, I think. We had an interesting bit with the towel being sold. So it proved to be only for the weekend of pre-order, but they were selling resin on GW's website. Not sure what this means.
I didn't happen to go on the site to see this at the time. I even was looking around while we've been here, just trying to see them, and as you say, realised, no, hold on, that was only a short time. Did you see it on the website? Did you
I did,
have a look?
I knew it was happening, so I didn't really take any notice of it. But though, yeah, I saw them on there.
How was it integrated? Was it just mixed in with the rest, or was it in its own section?
Yeah, I think it was labelled as an expert kit.
Right.
Saw someone talking about that. But yeah, I don't know. It means essentially probably means one of three things. That it's trial. I'm not sure that it's a trial of selling more stuff on GW's website, unless they are going to redo the whole thing. Just to boost the sales. Just because it's there, get people excited, they order one of those. Or
possibly
that it's
just making people aware that it's out there.
Yeah, and then part of that boosting sales, slightly different, is to reach a new audience with resin. So whether we're going to see this moving forwards, if we get a Space Marine resin release, maybe it does get jumped in with, which, I mean, most of those things, Forge World's only a £70 free delivery anyway now, isn't it? So it's almost irrelevant for the big kits to get better postage.
I've been browsing around a bit more. They're still there.
Are they hidden, are they?
Kind of. If you go on the GW website now, there's the big banner saying Tau are here. Then immediately below that, there are these 6 boxes with other releases that were out.
Yeah.
One of them is Marvels of the Earthcast, and you click on that, and within Games Workshop, it's got a section called Expert Level Model Kits. Because I was just thinking, this is weird. I've never seen them put an age rating on models before, and these do. Now, they've got the 2 other symbols. They've got 15 plus age range, and as you say, they're all in an expert level model kits. It's a limited selection. Yeah, and what do those 2 symbols mean? Direct only is what the arrow means.
And specialist order item for the other one, because you click on it, it tells you.
Oh yeah. What does a special order item do?
That means it's these resin things. It's probably something to do with returns and things like that.
Right. Okay.
Because if you're sending these out to shops, because that's one thing about this, you can get delivery to shop.
Yeah, that's
if they're
true.
on the Games Workshop website.
So it might be something to do with time frames.
Yeah, things like that. Don't really know, but that's cool. They're still up there. Okay, I didn't see that. That's good. So that's an interesting development.
And it's interesting the way they're doing it, because it's also a curated range. It's not the full range of Tau that Forge World do, but it means it helps you with delivery costs. It helps you with exposure. It helps, as you say, you can get it delivered free to your local store. I mean, at the Tottenham Court Road store, you can certainly pick up odd items.
Apart from the actual models, apart from the arms for the town everything else is free delivery anyway from Forge World. But for some people, delivering to their house is not the best option. Delivering to a GW store is a bit safer. But yeah, that's interesting. It's still up. It is limited time. They're obviously capitalising on the fact that it's good marketing, isn't it? It's like, while you're here buying your cool new Tau stuff, you can buy this really expensive Tau thing as well. It's here. Which is fine. It's all good.
I think
but it'll be interesting moving
easier
forwards.
Just integrating the ranges. I can see them doing it.
So they're working. I mean, again, we're a little bit later on. They're working on a new web store. So I wonder if they alter the way they do it, because Black Library currently don't sell physical books on their website.
Right.
Haven't done since the start of the a little bit through the pandemic. Okay. If you go onto Black Library, I'm just going to double check this is still true now. You can buy an ebook or an MP3. All the physical books are sold through GW. So maybe it is part of that integration.
For Heresy, it is going to be tricky, isn't it? Because it's just such a massive range. But you could supplement, because something like Titanicus is the ideal, because there's actually relatively little Forge World exclusive Titanicus content.
Yeah,
models. Whereas there is a substantial range of plastic kits that are from GW Prime. So there's something like that. It would lend itself quite well to that integration. Whereas Heresy probably is one of the worst for that, because there are just so many standalone kits.
If you've got a Heresy section of the Games Workshop website,
then
is that any different than having a Forge World? So, and then you could have crossover links within your website. You could have certain items crossover.
It's just the fact that stores aren't integrated. Like if you buy gift vouchers for Forge World,
and then it opens up that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, if you can blend the two.
Yeah, and I think we're a long way from that. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen anytime soon, if at all. But it was an interesting thing. But if you have GW vouchers and you want some Space Marine stuff, you never know. When they release a Space Marine book or something, you might be able to go and buy some resin, maybe.
Well, this is it, yeah.
Something to keep an eye on. It's great that you can go on GW and use your GW vouchers to buy books, because that's what I did with my free ones from Warhammer Plus and things like that. So I ended up spending it on the limited editions I was buying, which was pretty sweet. Cool. We did have a couple of actual releases. So the Khan, I've been impressed with a few of the Khans I've seen out there, actually.
Yeah, there's some really nice paint schemes starting to materialise, isn't it? I saw Miles' one being shown from Little Legend. That was very nice. That was a very nice one.
Yeah. Pete Reese and Tom Sargent, actually. A couple of nice ones as well. It's a great model. It works really well. So, yeah, that's cool. And then Book 8 in softback. So, most of the books are out softback or have been released in softback. Get in there, which is cool. So, if you missed out on that one and you didn't notice that one had gone up, you can go and get that. Before we jump on to the exemplary battle, there was it's a while ago now, back during the pandemic. It's a Kickstarter. I don't know exactly how it works because I didn't plug into it. But there's a book coming out called Dice Men. Ian Livingstone with Steve Jackson, The Origin Story of Games Workshop. And you can go to unbound.com/books/games-workshop and you can support their project. I don't know exactly what Unbound is like, if it's it's a crowdfunding publisher that works for everybody. So yeah, and you can still support the project for £30. You can get a limited edition hardback with your name in the back of the book of this book with pictures in and stuff, which is the story of Games Workshop and how it got formed. And I didn't know until a couple of years ago that Games Workshop helped design games for Crystal Maze.
Oh wow!
Back in the day.
That was news to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so things like that. But yeah, it goes right back to Chapter 7, Van Morrison, 1976. It will certainly be an interesting read. I might not get this limited edition. I might have to see if they do a different edition. Maybe they won't. I don't know. But,
I'm loving the vintage Games Day poster. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it would be, because there's a lot of history to Games Workshop pre-Warhammer. I can try and remember when Rogue Trader came about, 82, 83? Or was it a little bit further than that?
I think it's a little bit later.
It might be.
I'm instinctively thinking 88, but even that feels a bit late.
No, I think... no, it's before. Oh, well, so yeah, Warhammer was first, wasn't it? So... let's look that up. But yeah, you can still jump on there and see what 1983 for Warhammer.
Warhammer Rogue Trader was released in October 87.
87 for Rogue Trader. So yeah, Warhammer 83, which was still, it was partly as much RPG as it was wargaming. But yeah, so maybe interested in that. And then an exemplary battle. Haven't had a chance to read this yet. Not fully anyway. we're looking forward. We are going to try and jump into these soon. We were going to do it for this episode, but it just didn't happen. The Battle of Perditus, Umbral 51.
This was quite a good one, wasn't it? Were they all? I mean, they're all coming out.
Well,
this is keeping the level quite at that good level. They're continuing it, and it seems to be coming out at quite a pace.
Yeah, I kind of skim read it, so I don't want to get too much into the details of that because I won't do it justice anyway. But Inner Circle Knights Cenobium, Order of the Broken Claws, so like restricted inner knights, which is quite a cool concept. What have they got here? So they're cataphractes with tyrannic greatswords and plasma casters, and they can obviously fire their flipping plasma casters, can't they? They can overwatch these things, and they can have 5 additional Order Cenobites. Thunderhammers, Advex Moor's Greatswords, which is a really interesting thing. The Order, one of the most interesting things, the Order Preceptor may exchange their Tyrannic Greatsword for either a mastercrafted Thunderhammer, cool, or a Paragon Blade on a champion.
Oh, goodness. Wow, yeah, okay.
Which is a very interesting thing to do, because a Paragon Blade's a blade as well, so they get their blade bonus for being Dark Angels. The Advex Moor's Greatswords are +3 strength, AP3, melee 2-handed rending murderous strike, which are an interesting weapon. I'm not 100% sure they're worth swapping over the Tyrannic Greatswords for, but they sound cool.
Yeah, what do they offer? What do they offer as an alternative to the Tyrannic Greatsword?
So I'm just trying to look up the rules for the Tyrannic Greatsword now, which, naturally I can't find as I'm looking through them. Why would these things be easy? Heresy, here we go. Right. Try and find the right book. That's always a good one. It's almost like there's too many books. You're looking that up. Okay, while you're doing that. And then when they're selected, Orders of the Broken Claw, all models in that Inner Circle Knights Cenobium gain the Order Exemplars. Special rule for no additional point costs. They get +1 to their wound rolls when locked in combat with an enemy unit that includes 1 or more monstrous creatures or gargantuan creatures, or models with the Demons of the Ruin Storm special rule. Additionally, when resolving the effect of penetrating hits as a result of close combat attacks, models representing this order add 1 to the result of the vehicle damage table. So that's not bad. You're getting your AP2 effectively for doing that. And furthermore, they may make Overwatch attacks despite being equipped with Cataphracti Pattern Terminator armor, which makes them a beast in Zone Mortalis particularly.
That is good.
Have you got the rules for the Tyrannic Greatsword there?
I'm about to get to it. It's page 100. I'm flicking through as we speak. It's page 156 is where the Dark Angels start. I know, it's terrible, isn't it?
On podcast. It's fine. It's good. If it's good enough for Kermode and it's good enough for us. That's what I say. Yeah, so I think they've got Tyrannic Greatswords have instant death. Thinking that's the one they have. These are stubborn and all that jazz as well for these guys. They're cool. I almost like the fact that they're set tone, and almost kind of wonder if the Inner Circle, the Cenobium, should have been set into there. You buy your specific one and have less kind of play around them.
I feel like that's something that could be. This allows you to add that kind of thing, though. It feels like that would have made them. It would almost have been too much. There's already an unbelievable amount of adjustment.
But it makes it easier though, because you can't have you've got less. Like if you're going to take that option, you take that option, and then it's built in with everything else around it.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas having all the options available to you, like a lot can go on with Dark Angels armies.
Tyrannic Greatsword, so it gives you more strength. Tyrannic Greatsword is +2 strength.
Yep.
AP3, melee, 2-handed, instant death. So the Tyrannic Greatsword is instant death, whereas the
Greatswords are +3 strength with rending and murderous strike.
Yeah. I think that's quite an interesting alternative.
Yeah.
+3 strength, it's going to be strength 7 rather than strength 6. Is that much better?
Well, yes. If you're fighting Demons of the Ruin Storm and So Murderous Strike inflicts instant death with said weapon on a roll of 6. Hold on, bear with me. I'm trying to look up the
the
Murderous Strike
always-on
rule.
instant death is significant. I mean, that is very powerful, to be fair. Murderous Strike is just on 6s, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So this has still got the instant death.
On
There's
6s.
there's a weird place for these. So how many attacks do they have base? 2, 3 for the Preceptor. They're great weapons, so you're not getting the extra attack from that. But you are weapon skill 5 and 6 for the Preceptor. It's plus points for the the greatswords are plus 2 points each. So the problem you've got is what stuff is AP2 rather than AP3 where it matters. So most Mechanicum stuff doesn't go above AP3, and the stuff that does, I think of things like a Thanatar, doesn't have that many wounds anyway. So your plus 3 strength of these greatswords take you up to strength 7, as we said. So you are wounding demons that little bit easier. Because plenty of demons can be toughness 6, 7, 8 as you get to the bigger stuff early on in the game. So you are getting more wounds through, and then obviously some of those are rending, so they're being forced onto their invulnerables. But you're needing those 6s for Murderous Strike, but you only need one instant death hit to go through for the other dudes. So how many hits are you trading for one getting through and killing a 3, 4, 5 wound model?
Yeah,
that's a real kind of the problem with if demons and Mechanicum had slightly more 2-up armor save stuff, then the greatswords would have more of a place. Is it individuals or how is it all of them? Any model. So you can have a mix, which is probably the way I'd go, to be honest.
Giving you the flexibility. That would be quite cool.
I also don't think, like, if you're charging with 5 of these dudes, say, just 5 of them, that's giving you 15, 16 attacks at weapon skill 5, weapon skill 6. Now, what's the sword rule? If you're the same weapon skill, you get +1 to hit. Is that correct? So you're hitting on 3s and they're still hitting you on 4s?
As you can't underneath the Paragon models, it just specifically calls out Paragon Blades, models of swords, when fighting a model with an equal weapon skill, a model with a special rule hits on a 3+.
Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, like most demons aren't even weapon skill 5. Most Mechanicum aren't weapon skill 5 either. So you'll be hitting on 3s. So, like, say 10 hits. Let's say it's a demon, a big demon at toughness 7, 5 wounds through with these new blades. Maybe 1 rending, maybe 1 Murderous Strike. But that Murderous Strike's going to really hurt because it's rending as well. So you're taking that down. If you do 15 attacks with the other dudes, 10 hits, but you're needing 5s, becomes like 2 or 3 wounds, and then it's down to like the problem is if you're charging a unit and they've only got AP3, you're killing 3 big creatures. You're killing 3 Castellax in one go, whereas the greatswords probably aren't. If you're charging a character who's got a 2 or something with a 2+ save, maybe you're doing more with the greatswords. So I think if you were looking at it that way, you'd probably stick because you're also not paying 2 points each.
I would love to see +2. I'm surprised they're not cost neutral.
Well, again, we've said this with each of these. We're not 100% sure of the rule set these are designed for.
Fair point.
So things can change. It can be future-proofed into that. You know what I might do? I might just model like the Preceptor with a Paragon Blade, and then 2 greatswords and 2 things. I don't think you need the Thunderhammer because the greatswords are helping you out with the damage. What else can they have? Maybe give 1 a Thunderhammer. Screw it.
I was going to say Thunderhammer's handy for the for vehicles.
Vehicles, absolutely, and every now and then you do need that. They can have a grenade harness as well on the Preceptor.
The fact that Thunderhammer's free Although the
cool.
AP3, I don't know.
You're not getting your +1 to hit.
No.
But again, most of the time that doesn't really matter. I like them. I think they're a cool unit. I think they're a tough kind of unit, but I think with Dark Angels, you're potentially spending a lot of points on a lot of different things, so you can be playing into that kind of very elite army. I think I'd take a mix just for coolness factor.
They look cool. I'm a big fan of that white colour scheme on them.
In fact, I'd take 6, and I'd have 2 greatswords, 2 tyrannic greatswords,
2 thunderhammers,
1 thunderhammer, and a paragon blade. I don't even think you need the paragon blade on the champion, because they're only, what's initiative is he, 4 still? Oh no, that's the poisonous squad. 4 still. So most characters are going before you. You've only got 1 wound. Like, it's a bit of an ask. Mind you, actually, no, tell a lie. They're all characters, aren't they? Cenobites.
Are they?
So big character, yeah. Auto Cenobites,
absolutely
infantry character.
Yep.
So someone comes in, charges you, you go, oh yeah, I'll take that with 1 Cenobite dude. Oh, he's dead, and I still get to attack you with my, depending on the circumstances, I can ruin the unit or attack into that dude with my Paragon Blade anyway. Cool, yeah. They're cool.
So only the Preceptor can have the Paragon Blade then.
Yeah, which I think that's just a really nice move actually. I don't mind
particularly for Dark Angel.
Yeah.
Particularly for are they particularly expensive? That ability to Overwatch with these plasma casters.
It's pretty powerful.
Horrific.
Well, it's not so bad in regular because it's still 6s to hit.
Yeah.
But in Zone Mortalis, when you're making an initiative check to do it on full ballistic skill, and the plasma casters don't allow cover saves, if I'm correct. So, like, that helps for those hits you do get, and it's plasma, it's great. It is very good. But hey, fire enough bolt guns at them. They've only got 1 wound. Just keep peppering them with bolt guns, baby.
They do look cool.
Fury of the Legion. But they're priced, competitively, but Terminators are expensive. There's a lot of units in Dark Angels that you want that are 300 odd points. Plus, are you just taking these at 275?
Yeah.
And with a couple of extra points added on, or are you putting them in a Land Raider of some kind or a Spartan? Your army can get very small very quickly.
Which feels okay with Dark Angels.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's just
but what as you say, 1 wound. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
they may be powerful, but 1 wound Terminator, bolt guns, weight of fire is
dangerous indeed.
But goodness me, if they work, they are going to hit you like a train. But that is not the only unit in this set, of course.
No, we've got a Poisonous squad, a Mortis Poisonous squad. So for the 14th Legion.
So it's about as 14th Legion as a unit can get.
Yeah. Usual Space Marines. What have they got though? Oh, they come with frag grenades. What a surprise! And hardened armor and counterattack. Not too bad. They can take melt bombs for the whole squad. So one of those things where it's the whole squad, so you get better price as you go further forwards. You can take flamers with chem munitions instead, any model. So again, you can swap a couple out, or have all of them. What else can they have? Power weapon and power scythe for the poison master, artificer armor, etc. And 3 phosphex bombs on the poison master.
Phosphex bombs, heavy flamers with chem munitions. It's quite a unit, isn't it?
Yeah, again, I think in Zone Mortalis, if you've got a few with the flamers with chem munitions, that's not a bad little squad.
I saw some people saying, again, completely ignoring the point of them being just a cool unit that you just might want to have some fun with. That a heavy, just a flamer support squad, tactical support squad with flamers in the 14th Legion was doing a very similar sort of job, but they haven't got anything like the flavour kind of extras that these guys have got.
No, and thing is, if you're talking about paying 30k on an open battlefield, a flamer unit probably wants to be as cheap as possible because you've got to get them there to be able to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at when you look at Zone Mortalis, and it's called out in the red section, these are, they're a destroy company a thing, which again is just great to have more variety in there.
And
But
they're
it's like,
a specialist portion
yeah,
of a destroyer company. Yeah.
aboard ships or within the close confines of hive complexes, their formidable weapons were a valuable asset in clearing defensive positions. If you come up against these guys where they've got, a few bolters and a few flamers, and phosphex bombs, and they've got the red grenades as well, of course, and everything else. You've got to think about whether you want to charge them or
not. Yeah,
and they fit very well into
with counterattack as well.
Yeah, it's those little extra bits, isn't it? It's those
counterattack. They've got
incremental
bolt pistol, and close combat weapon.
Yeah, so you got 3 attacks there. Extra attack for the poison master. Or you can run up and throw your phosphex bomb in and charge in afterwards. They're cool. They got I say, they come with hardened armor. There's a lot going on with that. Like your basic flamer squad is not the same as these guys. They might, I say, in a big 30k game have an effectively similar role, but you can use these guys differently.
I like it. Just that's the kind of the point of this, though, isn't it? That
exactly,
you can just take, if you're going to take a destroyer squad, well, if you're in your 14th Legion, well, I can take this cooler version.
Yeah, and they are cooler than destroyer squads.
Yeah.
And if you want to do, and maybe we will see more options. I know with the Mournival events pack, you can take destroyer companies and things like that. So you're playing into that. Maybe we see an opening up of what you can take in armies going forwards. Who knows? And then we got another legendary mission as well, which is an interesting one because things with these is they call out the units as well, so you get most from them by using those units. You can change rules around, but this is a bunch of objective markers are put down. Is it 6? Can't remember. And then you basically have to find the relic essentially. When you move on to them, you roll a d6 and add the number of the current game turn. On a 2 to 6, it's a false reading. On a 1, bad stuff happens. On a 7+, the relic has been discovered. That's cool. What was it? Oh no, because you can't have a 1. That's right. There's no bad stuff. But yeah, you're trying to hunt the relic down, and then once you got it, it works like the relic does in missions. But that's cool.
That's cool. I was just reading the Sleeping Sentinels. Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah, for the location unknown, a mana pool consisting of D3. I knew something bad happened. Consisting of D3 Vorax class battle automaton or Castellax class battle is immediately deployed by the opposing player, placed as close as possible to the objective, and fun ensues.
Yeah, D3 Castellax would be no joke.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong there.
I would say Castellax, D3 Castellax, 3 Castellax waking up, to me, is far more intimidating than 3 Vorax. Have I badly underestimated Vorax?
Well, Vorax do more damage in combat. Like, for all that Castellax are great,
Vorax tough as nails.
Yeah, that's the thing with Castellax. They're okay. They're good on the charge, and they're good if you can boost them with your Cyberthurgy. But the thing they do is outlast. They've only got like a couple of attacks each at weapon skill 3 or something.
Okay.
Whereas
Vorax are more
2,
vicious.
Vorax have initiative 4, weapon skill 4. They're still monstrous creatures at strength 6. With more attacks, they might have 3 base. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head. So yeah. They are very different beasts. Castellax all round are better. Vorax absolutely have their place. I used to love my Vorax. I used to chase people's Primarchs and stuff with my my poisoned rotor cannons. Going, I'm going to kill your character with my rotor cannons, and they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to fire like 1 billion T-shots at him, and you will roll ones. It will happen. Never quite happened, but I did scare people enough.
just that one time it might have happened would have been amazing.
Well, they took out some good targets over time. Like you fire 3 Vorax. Was it 4 shots each with the rote cannons? So 24 shots from 3 Vorax, hitting on 3s or 2s if you can upgrade them, and wounding on 4s. Like, that's a lot of dice.
It is, yeah.
Gotta keep someone on their toes. But yeah, that's a cool little scenario that you can then play around with as well. There's as an event organizer, for coming up with ideas and stealing bits and pieces from different places, more of these scenarios is never a bad thing.
I could see that being quite a fun one, actually. This one, particularly, I could see this being played amongst a group of people having some really good fun with this.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got a narrative. You can, like, this is a mission which can easily fit into, you've got to find a relic within your campaign narrative. And you know what? It's not Mechanicum that are waiting there. It's like nomads on the planet or whatever, or high advanced, or gribbly beasts. There's lots of different things that you can just shift up and change, and it just gives you more tools.
Yeah.
And tools is never a bad thing.
This suits particularly the type of gaming we do in our gaming group. Well, you've just got a day, you want to rock up and people are saying, I've got a couple of forces, I've put together a couple, 1,500 point forces. This sort of game, and these exemplary battles are perfect for that.
Yeah,
I just think
absolutely.
you could just rock and play this. They're good fun. They add a little bit to it. I mean, if you're just going beyond the basic games, these I think are really good. And this is a particularly good one. I think this one caught my imagination more than the others for some reason.
Yeah, and you know what? They're just going to keep them on my iPad, and they're there for any time. It's like, I want to play something a bit different. Yeah. We can do that. Hopefully we do get an expansion of missions or review of missions at some point. But until then, you've got, these lots of little options to do, and it's, this one is generally fair. Like, bad stuff can happen to either of you. Your game can be decided by it, but you still got the same chance of that happening, and it might not happen at all. You've got to roll a natural one when you're searching, so it's not like it's going to happen every time you roll. But yeah,
big fan. They've done a good one, and they don't show any sign of coming to an end anytime soon.
No, we've no idea. They did. Did they talk about revealing more?
I think they did. I think Andy Hall said, "I'm just finishing the next one," or something like that. I think he said. I think he said that when. Well, I think it was in the article where they released this one. They said on his Andy Hall to introduce it, and he said, "Funny, you should." I'm talking about this. I'm just finished putting the finishing touches on the next one. Okay, that's good that you're lining them up.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff. Cool. It's another one of those episodes, I think, where we talk about a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily directly heresy. But that's cool. That's fine. We had the report come out. I do want to touch on a few things. Hopefully, at least some of you find this as interesting as I do. I had a quick look through it. There's a lot of the usual kind of things in there. Revenue was up. That's never a bad thing. Online sales are down. We're coming out of the pandemic. People can go out a bit more. So there's a lot of that. Saying they did quite well because of people going back to work and like shipping issues, particularly Australia, where they've had a real hit, which I'm sure people are aware of. But GW doing well is a good thing for all of us. They've got 43 injection molding machines across 2 tool rooms. So we have got a number for how many they've got.
Interesting.
So they put in, I'm trying to remember the numbers we talked about. I think they had the extra 5 and they were doing, so I think they were putting in like about 10 since last year. So like they've added 33% at least, or around 33% to their capacity of in plastic. That's pretty awesome.
That's well, yeah, that's going to be turning out a lot of stuff. I mean, the way these machines, when they're running, and they're running them pretty hard, I'm imagining, to meet this demand.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they're catching up, but from there on, hoping that means a higher percentage of stuff coming in a plastic format, because that would be perfect. Phase 1 of their web store upgrade has been signed off. So this is a I think they were spending like 6 million on upgrading the web store or something like that, or expected to, and of course having to do it in a number of stages. So we might start to see, I'm sure a lot of it goes on just behind the scenes, but we might start to see some changes in that. As I mentioned earlier, they're talking about their new release structure and being 10 weeks behind, and that's of January. So they obviously did some catching up. But it does make me laugh. There was someone who on a forum who was like, "You can't know that GW are behind schedule." It's like, well, we can, because all the signs are there, all the show is there that it's been behind. Now we've actually got them admitting they are behind schedule, but it's just the schedule now.
It's an adjustment of the schedule. It's not.
Yeah.
They don't.
I don't necessarily think they need to catch up anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just on this schedule. It's fine.
They never committed to it.
No, exactly, and that's part of the problem with people. Exactly, and why they haven't. I'm sure why they haven't given a date out for thinking. I know a lot of people are like, but if you tell us and it delays, then we'll understand. And it's like, well, historically, no. People haven't understood, even when they do. People get angry at GW for lying to them. This whole concept in society at the moment where if I say something and then circumstances change and I can't do that one thing and it gets, I've lied to you about it. It's like, no, well, at that period of time, that was my goal, and things have happened to stop it. Like that's life. But hopefully we can get stuff on that. The hope is there's room for Heresy stuff on that plastic line, isn't there?
Well, yeah. If this suggestion of the turning quite so much of the range into plastic is going to be there,
it just seems so obvious. Like if they could, they would. But it comes down to sales and time and everything else, and it looks like Adeptus Titanicus has hit a bit of a kind of a level where it's at about what they're doing with resin and plastics. I'm not too sure if we're going to get how much more new plastic stuff we're going to get overall. But we also don't know what else they're planning either, do we? Other games and things coming out, and 40k and Age of Sigmar are on this churn now that's never going to stop. That's fine. That's cool. Blood Bowl and Necromunda are plodding along with their. So we're going to get the Ash Wastes.
Yeah, that could be quite a step up because that's vehicles.
And a couple of the rumor engines have been kind of linked in with one of the vehicles. From that, I can't see them being resin. They should be plastic. Maybe some new terrain as well. I mean, they put out terrain particularly if we are going to be fighting with vehicles, they probably do need some new terrain. But
I did notice that some of the terrain kits have a tendency to go out of production.
Yes.
Given that they're plastic and what the investment in that must be, I was quite surprised to see certain terrain kits not necessarily hanging around.
I don't know what the situation is now, but not all terrain kits were made the same way.
Okay.
So some, particularly some of the old Age of Sigmar stuff early on, was made in China.
Right.
Different plastic.
Yes, actually, some of the Sigmar stuff was. I was thinking things like the frag drill. That was an interesting kit. That came out
and I don't know if that's
occults, and that's not around anymore.
No, was that printed in a GW thing? It might have been. But they might consider those to be a single run. We know exactly what we're going to make from them, and then we're going to move on. Whether that's good or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. At the end of the day, I think there's an element of. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an element of 3D printing exists now, so we've got a window to get out there, sell the thing before independents come out with their own version of the thing and reduce the demand. Because that is Games Workshop. We talked about 3D printing, particularly for things like terrain. Like there's a level there where at some point it's going to become hard for people to look past 3D printing. A lot of people, terrain's cool and they want cool looking terrain, but they don't mind if it's got some print lines on it. It's terrain. that kind of aspect.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who knows? Maybe not. So they've got a Shanghai Warhammer Cafe coming. It's been paused. They're also planning a Tokyo one.
Oh, okay.
For opening this year. They are pushing the Eastern. I think it's probably quite a good idea, bearing in mind they haven't got the, it's not as easy to come over here for anything. There's nothing in Australia, is there?
Not as a full cafe, no. Not as one of these sort of premier locations.
I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. I suppose they've got an issue of the geographical nature of Australia and everything being around the edge. But,
I would have
Texas
thought given there's such a following in Australia, I'm surprised that one of the busier locations hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought
it must be on the roadmap, but then.
I suppose maybe it's a question. I don't know my Australian geography that well. But yeah, maybe not Sydney, maybe because obviously there's
a couple of big events that go on there, particularly in the Age of Sigmar. The Age of Sigmar scene is pretty developed.
Yeah, absolutely.
There. So I would have thought wherever one of the big events is, Melbourne. I've got a feeling there's something in Melbourne, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Australia, amazingly, on Australia Day, managed to get people to commit to 3-day events over effectively a bank holiday, which is just something that probably would never happen in England. It'd be like, no, sorry, bank holiday Mondays are reserved by the missus. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that. The Warhammer Cafe seems to have been enough of a success to push it into other places, and maybe we'll get even more around Europe. Although it's not hard to pop over to Bugman's, and Bugman's is a huge draw. You could see somewhere like Germany, which has got a big gaming community. Sweden, having something in Gothenburg or Stockholm. I don't know why I said Gothenburg. Yeah, maybe. But who knows? What else do we have here? So the warehouses. There's some interesting bit in here. First phase of work to refurbish the original Nottingham warehouse facility has been completed successfully. This will be our component warehouse and should be fully operational by May 2022. At full capacity, it will employ 200 people. It currently employs 37.
Oh wow! Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
That stood out to me. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Get on if you're in Nottingham and you want to join Games Workshop. Get on their site and keep an eye out. Total warehousing costs have increased by 2.8 million to 9.7 million. That's a big jump, isn't it?
It does seem high. Okay.
As a percentage of, I mean, obviously, they set up their gateways and they push them in and they're up and running now and they've increased staff. So as a percentage of sales, they've increased from 3.7 to 5%. It's a big jump in line with the operational plan. This can be analysed as a new day-to-day running cost, staff and facilities. We will try our best to get stock in the right place at the right time, and we have fallen short during the period. The challenging backdrop, live projects and global disruption has increased some of our stock levels more than I would have liked. Getting back to the basics of managing our range and stock levels will be a key area of focus. So they have had issues. I know currently with the books, there's a few people in the US who've had some real delays with books and stuff like that. I don't know whether that's the nature of part of that or not, but that's a big expansion. Like they've really invested. And bearing in mind I know they had a lot of IP money, I think, come in last year. But all that investment, they still made their money up. And while admitting that they've paid out a lot more for other things, which they're quite happy to do. They've increased salaries and things like that.
I can't imagine that licensing revenue slowing down anytime soon either. With you got the sticker books and things being announced, and they're exploring all of the options that you think, okay, that's one I wouldn't have occurred to me.
Well, all these, the amount of those toys that are out now, the Space Marine action figures.
I think they're doing really well. From what I understand. I mean, you wouldn't re-release them at that pace if they weren't doing really quite well. I mean, they're releasing big things. They've been releasing Dreadnoughts and stuff. It's like,
that Dreadnought's 130 quid. I mean, people are going to buy it. I want to see a Warhammer game with those toys. I want to see someone actually do it. It'll be great.
It's not far off.
No, and some people will
not
be
far
buying
off Inquisitor, is it? His Inquisitor was that sort 54. Of size, I think. Yeah, 54
a
mil.
bit smaller. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason why you can't do it. It would be great. Take them to Games Work, take them to Warhammer World, and play in their store.
Yeah. These are official
released
GW models. Yeah.
GW models. In fact, on My Life in Miniatures, the guest on there was talking about playing D&D in Bugman's with a load of veteran staff, because for a while Games Workshop had their own own D&D product out.
Genius.
So it's technically fine to play it in store, which is great. And there was just one more little bit. We have again found a great success in licensing Warhammer into computer games with some world-class partners. So we got to be announced, to be launched in 2020, including Total War Warhammer 3, Warhammer 40k, Darktide, and Lost Crusade.
Oh yes, Darktide, that looks quite good.
Deals have been announced to launch a major online game set in the Age of Sigmar universe, as well as Space Marine 2. We continue to search for the right long-time partners to exploit other IPs. So yeah, I mean, they're pushing that hard with video games, and as you say, across. So their licensing royalties increased by 11.4 million to 20.1 million, including 13.7 million of guaranteed royalty income.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So they're absolutely smashing it with that now. I think Warhammer is starting to become that brand.
Yes.
They were talking about they were really pleased with Warhammer Plus, how it was taken up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they were
how
like,
that goes, because I've sort of heard mixed reviews.
Well, yeah,
mixed reception, I should say.
Yeah, absolutely, and a mixed reading of what offering deals meant. Like, yeah, the reduced deals and the money back off deals for joining was seen as a criticism of the success of the venture. Amazon buy football games in the UK, soccer games, around the post-Christmas period, that week off, where people are off in general. There's games on most days, and they show every single game on Amazon Prime for that week. And they're happy with that. That's the only football they buy. A couple at the start of December as well, but generally that's the football they want to buy, because they know that a number of guys will sign up to Amazon Prime and then forget, or hopefully not forget, and just like the fact that they're getting the extra bits,
they're not
and gets them into the system, or they forget. So all of a sudden you're in the ecosystem. You offer someone £10 to trial Warhammer Plus, and they like it enough that they keep it. That's like sound business management, like long-term gain. I'm trying to find it. It was something like 2 million. I'm not going to be able to find it now because there's loads of pages of this rubbish. Like in the first short period or whatever, they were happy with the numbers that it had hit, and they know, understanding that it's it's a product that's growing and it isn't there yet. And saying it's for their most hardcore fans, like it is. They need to make sure they reach beyond that, and they don't seem like. Here we go. What are we on here? Talking about the success of the Imperium, ahead of expectations. There are over 7.5 million words in the Horus Heresy novel series so far.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. I love that. That's a stat. That's brilliant.
That's not bad, is it? I can't find it. That's typical. But yeah, they're happy with it. Like, I do think once those are released and they've been like some of their bigger hits, once they've identified what really hits well, I think as well with Warhammer Plus, they can then take individual aspects of that and put them out on other platforms for free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you not then take? If you've got, say, that I haven't even watched all of the shorts yet, but if you've got one which is significantly doing better than the others, like, so it's a hit with people who like Warhammer, then you show that for free on Twitch or something, or give it away to someone for a period of time to show, or whatever, and your market research is done to a point, and hopefully that brings you more people within the threshold. I don't see a problem with that at all, personally.
I feel it's got room to grow. It's got things it can do.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
watching some of the animations again. The stories are quite good. I look at some of the animations and I look at what's being done elsewhere. I mean, we've had Vox. I haven't seen any of this yet, but you've got Vox Machina out there. There's Arcane. It's been set the hell of a milestone.
Vox Machina, not safe for work, kids. I will tell you. I saw someone talking about, I'm watching this D&D cartoon, and they're like, oh, cool, I'll show that to Eddie, and they're like, no, Eddie's a child. Trust me, seriously, not safe for work. I think within the first 2 minutes, there's scenes of an adult nature, should we say, and that's not just language. So yeah, and I'm a follower of Vox Machina, and I love it.
That and Arcane, the animation quality is that considerable step up, and it would be a massively painful investment and a hell of a risk over a new launch, a new product like this. But I could see them expanding into that as they get more confident.
It'll be interesting what they do, because some of these successes, the animation is stylistically not as advanced. Like, so my missus sat with Vox Machina and were you happy about the animation? Did you want it to be smoother? And I'm like, it's sort of like my mid-90s kids or early 90s kids TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think that's what they were going for. It was the crew involved with Critical Role are of a certain age, slightly around my age, some older, some younger. And I think there was a definite kind of, remember those kids TV shows we watched in the early mid-90s? Like that. I want that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe there is an element that they have to up some of their stuff, so they've got a variety.
But I can see them doing that once they've got a more mature offering. To do it now, it would have been. I mean, someone's pointed this out. I can't remember if we discussed it on here. I've heard people talking about it. They were shocked how much animation costs. So I'd imagine you have to hedge your bets over going not to the top of that scale. It's really high. So I'd imagine that if you go all in, you've got to be able to take that kind of risk. Be financially capable of taking that kind of risk.
Yeah, Critical Role raised 12 point whatever million on Kickstarter. So I think it was anyway. So take off Kickstarter's little bit, take off the other bits, whatever. They've still got a hefty chunk of a few million to play with. And I think, I'm trying to remember exactly, that they'd agreed to go to a second season. No, they'd agreed to complete a certain arc to do so much of a story. And it was only then that they got onto Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime came on board with them, that it was then put to 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because they just don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
And they've got, and it's time. Animations take time. Time costs money, and they've got some great actors in that as well. You've got Zoe from Firefly, David Tennant. I can't even remember. Big names. Not playing around. But it took a $12.8 million show of We're With You from their fans, which then when Amazon were like, you've got an audience already which is prepared to pay that much. Cool, that is then worth investing in. But you can't just go to Amazon and go, we've got this really good idea for a TV show, we're Warhammer, everyone will watch it. They go, cool, what have they? So they already watch your TV shows? Well, no, we haven't got any yet. Cool, so why are they going to go from playing your game to watching your TV show? Yeah. There's no certainty in that at all. So who's going to throw the money at that? They're not. Especially with something that's quite dark. Who is Warhammer? What are Warhammer TV aimed at? TV shows aimed at? It's a hard one to make shows for kids all the time with the content that 40K has, particularly.
Yeah.
And fine, it's cool. Like the one they showed off the trailer of at the LVO. Can't remember what it's called now.
Interrogator.
Interrogator, yeah, that could go some really funky ways, and I think I really look forward to them investigating the gaps, like in the lore, like the bits that can only be done through novels and through this kind of thing. You, you know, like Eisenhorn's held up in part because it was a really good book. But I mean, there are much better written books than Eisenhorn, but the world building that comes from Eisenhorn, the gaps it lets you see into, and now with Warhammer Crime and Horror, you're getting other aspects of that as well. And Warhammer TV allows you to do that to an even greater extent.
It does bode well. It will be interesting to see what they do with that as they move forward.
Yeah, they're in a very good place. Does it mean everything they do is going to work? No, of course it doesn't. But that's not a problem. Never be afraid of failure, just as long as you can look back at it and analyse why and adjust and move forwards.
But it will be interesting to see how they deal with failure, because it will happen. There'll be things that will be less successful than others, and how will they deal with that? How will they close certain avenues down and double down on other areas? They'll have to. They said this. I don't think they've ever said it, but the way they proposed it and the way they put it forward, it feels like an experiment. It feels early doors in terms of feeling their way into something. Of course it is.
They're still quite a cautious company.
Yes.
It took a long while to get into
I think they're very conservative, actually. Yeah.
Online and things like that. And like the utilisation of Twitch. Like now, you look at when did they start showing stuff on Twitch? A few years ago now. But they've got content every day now. I don't really watch any of it, to be honest, but there's a lot on there. They've tentatively started with Warhammer Plus, and I think I would like to see them expand on things like the army, the games, whatever you call them. My mind's gone. It's getting tired. When they're showing off the games, that they're playing.
Showing off the games. Oh, the battle reports.
Battle reports. Those are the words.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tired. I'd like to see them expand on that stylistically as well. I'd like to see 2 more people involved, or maybe 1 person involved, and have like a fun battle report and a more in-depth battle report. Well, not in-depth, but a slightly more focused battle report, maybe. Stuff like that they could do very easily. So I'd like to see that expansion happen, but we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. One interesting thing is like the last line is like their like kind of their future planning and all that, and the line is basically their biggest risk is corporate complacency, which is good to read. I think they said that last time as well. They know they've got a good product, good IP to work with. They know they've got good people within the company, and it's like it would tick along as it is almost, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's at the top. It's not pushing. It's allowing something else to come up, and I think that is
because it'll be the unknown that will catch them out. As you say, they can be complacency. They need that fire under them, which is, as you say, it's a good thing to be aware of. It'll be interesting to see what they actually do in practice.
Yeah, because as I say, they are fairly conservative.
I think so. Yeah.
Even with the new thing, but they're making a lot of money. They've got a lot
reasonably
of
well, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of investors to look after who probably like the fact that GW have always just done pretty well. Yes, they've had this massive boost recently, but they're not a tech startup in the valley. Like people aren't coming into GW hoping to make hundreds of millions of dollars in 5 years and get out. Like, it's not what they are. But they need to keep progressing and pushing forwards, and it feels like they're exploring all the avenues. The big question is those kind of unforeseen avenues, and how quickly they can move on those. And that comes down to partly who they've got, where they've got, and I still think there are issues with GW with people in positions. I heard some talks about like the app devs, the developers on the apps. They're probably not paying them enough, and that's why you've got the product you've got.
Okay.
But take these things with a pinch of salt because you hear them from sources. You've probably got an axe to grind a little bit.
Yeah. And you
But
go to most companies in the world and you'll find someone on those sides.
exactly. But I can believe they would undervalue that side of things.
Yes, and experimenting with something again before realizing.
Because
yeah,
we see a product which doesn't really work that well.
I did see a considerable. I mean, particularly with what 40K is doing at the moment, and with the challenges of global distribution being what it is, and print media being what it is. I still buy rule books because I find the physical book quicker and easier to go through when playing a game. However, it's undeniable that it's a bit of a problem having updates and things on a printed medium book, and seeing a few people have a real gripe about that with Custodies in 40K recently.
Yeah, it's happened with a handful of books. The Stormcast Dragon units were changed before they were released. But also, as you say, in today's climate, so obviously, I mean, the only reason they would have the release structure they have for books, with where you buy a book, get the digital release, and that's the only way you can get it. And you don't even get the book digitally; you get aspects of it and whatever. It's because they want to combat piracy. Like that can be the only thing. Yeah. Well, I say to the group, if I was to say to my gaming group, "Oh, I need a Custodes book digitally," like they'll go, "Here you go, here's the links," because it kind of encourages it. If you just produced a more expensive than a lot of people would like digital book, people would just buy it day one because it's there. With the current shipping issues you've got around the world, the increase in paper and stuff, does it not make more sense to push more digital? Isn't that sensible? And then, as you say, you could even integrate that then with all the things which change rules. So, what I would like to see is if they then brought out Warzone, whatever, and it changed one of your units, well, screw it, just give us that unit aspect of it. You don't have to give us the other units that I don't have in my armies or any of the information, the story and the lore, but give me the current. Like, let me open my digital book and see that my rules are current to the game of Warhammer 40K or Age of Sigmar.
Well, quite. I mean, I asked that question earlier because we were talking about Forge World Tau units being available on the GW website. I can't currently find, and I was searching for it before we were talking about it. Where are the rules for the Tau units, given the new Tau Codex is coming out? That is actually quite a difficult thing to track down. You've got to print it out. You've got it perhaps stuck in a book or whatever. As you say, individual units suddenly becoming available day one. It's about that convenience. That is going to sway people all day over dubious low quality or dubious methods of getting things through piracy. I just think people will go convenience.
At the end of the day, if someone pirates that book, they were going to pirate the other books anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like the people who don't pay for anything will never pay for anything. They'll always find a way around it. You're only actually really hurting the people who would buy your product. Yes. And it's causing some bad feelings, and that is what will lose you some customers. And the odd customer leaving GW is not going to make much of a difference, but over time it hurts, and it's just, again, perception of your product as well. And you're right, having to carry, an Orc Codex and 2 Warzone books and an FAQ just to be able to go and play one game, and a compendium because you've got some Forge World units, is getting back to the problems we had with 7th and the problems we had with early Heresy and all those kind of things. And it's another level, it's another block in the way of playing the game. And what Games Workshop should be doing is making it really easy for you to be able to play the game, because yes, reading books and stuff sells, playing the game sells. and playing the game is an advertisement as well for the game. So it should just be as easy as possible to do that. And I know there were some issues with. I don't think they liked the amount of money that iBooks were taking off them. They don't have to release them that way. Like you can just release PDFs on the website and limited downloads or what have you.
One way or another, I can see that coming in the future. I just don't see it being continued. It'll take
the
a
way
while.
the world's moving, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
The world is not
there'll
moving.
Be a method of doing it.
And you could still sell codexes. Like, obviously they'd have much smaller print runs needed, and you can still sell your limited edition codexes because you know what? People do love them. People like owning stuff. So you can still have that, but I would consider buying more. In terms of novels, I try not to buy hard copies of anything anymore. I read on my Kindle. Right, space, money, hassle.
Yeah.
Cool. If I could get rid of another shelf of 40k books or whatever, I always feel bad chucking away books as well. Like,
particularly codexes and things, the churn of it.
Yeah.
And the reality is, as we're an aging gamer population, if you're playing less and then you find I've bought a copy of a codex and I've used it maybe once, and then the next edition has rolled around. I mean, if you're a Space Marine player, my God, these things roll around. You think, I'm getting rid of this before I've played it. And in cellophane, I'm acutely aware of this, having moved a lot of stuff around or was out of houses recently. And I'm not sure I can justify buying codexes on that basis. But you could entirely see a digital subscription type of process as an option, not the only option, but as an option out there as well. I could see people going for that all day.
They do talk about Games Workshop. They do talk about being sustainable as possible, and all the other impacts and everything else that comes like that. How much waste is being produced by Games Workshop? Can you do much about the plastics? Probably not at the moment. Can they be recycled? We've had this discussion, not in a way that appears to be worthy, to appears to be a net positive. So, which is a sad truth of recycling. But so you're creating waste in that aspect, but that can't really change. Your models have to be your models. Can you reduce the waste of your books? Yes, big time, by having them digital. It's a very easy step to vastly reduce. You'd think of someone like me who plays Age of Sigmar 40k Heresy, and then dabbles with Blood Bowl and wants to play more Lord of the Rings. So I buy that kind of stuff, and then Aeronautica Imperialis, and we'll buy the odd Necromunda thing as well, and all that. It's a lot of books, even if I casually do them all.
Oh God, yes. And I think the ability to sort of dabble with those things and then therefore go out and buy kits because you're like, I've explored with this and I've explored with it, had an idea. Suddenly you're tempted. I could see that. Well,
it also feeds into
it must be something they're exploring. It must be.
I would hope so. It also feeds into their, there's a definite fear of missing out model at GW. There's a definite impulse buy model that's always been part of GW. Well, if I know I can go online and on my iPad and download any of the books, that's always there. I don't have to go to a shop. I don't have to, as soon as you go onto Element and think, I'll order that and it will turn up. Oh, missed today's date, so it will turn up in 2 or 3 days' time. I wanted to read it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I completely think that's a big deal, and particularly with stuff being released.
Yeah, absolutely. Something new. If you're out somewhere, you're like, that book was released today, and all the hype is around that book, and you're like, I can't get near a store. I could just download it. Okay, cool. I'll download it.
Yeah.
You just get, because sometimes you sit there and think, I'm not bothered about next week's release until that Saturday morning, and then you're like, actually, I could see myself doing that. So you're not getting it on day of release because you've ordered it the week before or anything like that. I do think there's a thing to be done there.
They must be exploring it, I'm sure. It'd just be interesting to see where they go with it.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows with GW? I think it's something. I think that is something where, maybe we do need to write more to them, let them know.
Well, this is it. Yeah, it does sound like a something that is fairly universal. You get this feedback from you tend to hear it. The more people discuss it, as either as optimistically or pessimistically as possible, the conclusion seems to be broadly the same. So I'd imagine it'll go there. But like you say, how are they getting that feedback? One to send them in a reasonable way, rather than going a bit mad on a Facebook page or something similar.
Yeah. That's, well, usual problems, eh? So all part of the fun.
Well,
right.
yeah.
Well, it's been another episode of us talking around the hobby rather than necessarily heresy. Well, we have got some. I'll do my little army choice in the next section, but I think we'll leave this part there for this show. We talked for a fair while.
Good chatting about a lot of stuff actually. When you start digging deep into it, there's a few topics there we weren't expecting to go into. But
yeah, I quite like these little sit here and chat kind of episodes. I'm acutely aware that we maybe do it more than some listeners will want, but hey, that's life, isn't it?
That's what the skip button's for.
Yeah, indeed. Well, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and you're not paying for this show at all if you don't want to. So, cool. But yeah, hopefully there's a bit of interest in there for you good listeners.
We'll get into some meaty topics, I'm sure. But we like to
talk
around these topics in the background. I'm sure it's the sort of thing I like listening to when I'm painting models.
Yeah, nice little make you think thing, and maybe you think we're wrong about it all. Let us know. I must admit, at work, I'm kind of trying to find any time at work just to to get a lunch break that isn't then interrupted to the point of I had an hour and I did 10 minutes of chilling, if that. But I've got a lot of subjects to kind of work out how we do how we do topics on. So we'll be looking to try and get those organised. But if you've got any ideas, chaps, please feel free to send us a message. Yeah, and we'll leave it there, Howard, I think.
Lovely. Well, speak to you again soon, and have a good one.
Take it easy.
Cheers, boo. Bye-bye.
Okie dokie. So for the next part of this show, I'm going to do a little section again on based on what I would take to an event that's happening, possibly happening right now at time of this release, because it's a little bit delayed. But this is based on the Solar Wars Part 4 What If event, and by Greetings of the Warp. Well known for their events up in Northampton. I couldn't really get around to going to this one. Didn't really know what I was doing before tickets went on sale and they sold out. But it looked like an interesting kind of idea to maybe have a look at what I would do for something like this. The premise of this event, kind of the What If, is sort of semi-taken from the Marvel What If series. And this is, from what I know, Greetings. I haven't gone to a Greetings event yet, but they're kind of keen to encourage the narrative of the Heresy that we have. So if you're playing a set event, you will have certain players who are certain characters who are there, who aren't there, legions, things like that. This event is Siege of Terror, or as if, the Siege of Terror as if everyone made it and everyone was available. It's cool, it fits within their event structure. They've got a narrative style that they do. I tend to think that we're always playing in a bit of a what if, because otherwise we'd be playing some really dull games, and we don't. I suppose it's a bit of a scale, but we talked about it before on the show, ages ago probably, where I heard of some historical gamers making the same decisions as the historical, so playing Custer during the Last Stand against Geronimo, something like that, but not breaking from historically what happened. And some people will say any deviation from that is a what if, because you're not doing what happened, and then you're going full scale the other way to allowing everything kind of thing. So all my events, because I like to let people choose options, as it were, they're all a semi what if, but there are, as you say, you could put restrictions on that which reduce that. That came out a lot more convoluted than I thought needed to happen, but apologies for that. So it's a what if, it's a free for all, if you will. Imagine everyone at the Siege of Terror. Now, I don't know, I was just having a little look through the pack. I'm not 100% sure whether that kind of goes full scale what if and is just like, you could jump into a Dornian Heresy or what have you. The only bit I could see is basically, is that what if they all made it? Everyone's involved. So according to that, it's sort of semi still in the lines, in the breakdowns between, who turned traitor, who didn't, that kind of thing, which is cool. That's fine. But they're looking for fun, a narrative event, still making sure that people are having fun, all the usual jazz that you expect from a narrative event. I know there are some people who go in who are good players who will pick slightly stronger armies, that kind of thing. Let's have a little look here. So 3,250 points, which is a nice limit. It's actually something I've been thinking about doing for one of my events. I like my one frustration with other games at the moment, Age of Sigmar and 40k particularly, is they're set into a 2,000 point limit or whatever for each game, and every tournament seems to follow the same principle. And I understand a section of the audience will like that. They know what they're going to every time. For me, that does get a bit dull, and I like just changing the points around. For 40k, if they did 1750, you know what? Some units are going to change how effective they are, and that's really cool. So I like mixing it up. 3,250. It's only a 4-game event. They give you a lot of time at greetings, which I'm a little bit on the fence of. I think I prefer 5, but that's cool. But you've got extra points to play with in this and get through. Only the Age of Darkness Force organisation charts, and no optional Force organisation charts. Allies are allowed, no relics, but you are allowed Psychana war gear, Sight Arcana, should I say. Where are we? Some Mournival stuff's allowed, some's not. They don't allow the Mournival Rights of War, which I kind of agree with. Although they're good fun, I don't think they're particularly... Well, I think they cause more imbalances. Not to say that they're balanced, they cause more imbalances than we already have, because we certainly do have some. What else can they have? There's limits on Lord of the Wars, so you can't have knight household armies. A limit to a Shield Captain Tribune or Valdor, which I think is probably fair. And demons not allowed to use their own missions, which I think should be a baseline for most people. I did listen to something today where someone was talking about demons using their own rules, and for most demon armies that won't be fun for the opposition. So I'm kind of cool with that. Plus, if you've got a narrative event, having a Crimson Fury, like if you've got to hold, the whole point of this thing is to hold objectives, and you've got a Crimson Fury demonic army which gets wiped out, but because everyone died in combat they win, doesn't really fit with the narrative per se in that. So I think that's sensible as well. There are times and places for other stuff, and there's a few other little bits to say, a few Mournival bits and pieces allowed, but haven't got any of the scenarios here to kind of go off. So it's a general kind of, this is my army. If I could take any army I wanted to this event, this is the army I think I might take. And I was actually this is an army that I kind of, if I had all the time in the world and all the money and could paint, then I would make this army for sure. And have been thinking about something like this for a while, just because I feel it's an army I would like to see out there, and it's an army that I was just talking to Pete Reese today about it, because I just kind of said, have a look over this and see what you think. Have I made any glaring weaknesses? Because when you're making army lists up of legions you don't use, sometimes you miss really obvious stuff, things like that. So it's White Scars, that gives it away. Pete Reese gives it away. And he was talking about kind of doing the same, going away from the bikes. Part of this is the contrarian in me, and that I would like to see more armies that play against stereotype, and I've said that a lot. White Scars are one of those ones that super play into stereotype, and you just don't seem to see. Like, anytime White Scars are mentioned, people say, "Oh, oh yeah, all your bikes," and I'm like, don't have to have bikes. Also, possibly fueled a little bit by Andy Hoare's White Scars that he's been painting, where he's been using a lot of vehicles, and a little bit fueled by the old White Scars 40k armies, because you didn't used to have jet bikes and bikes. You used to have bikes in the army, but it wasn't, all bikes. They didn't have jet bikes, but it was as much about the speed as it was specifically about the bikes. So yeah, I'm going for White Scars. I'm going for Loyalist White Scars. The idea being, this is kind of what's left on Terra that isn't for all the forces that are on Terra. If you've read Saturnine and all that, my brain's gone for the last book. Warhawk, that's the one. Should really be able to get that one. The White Scars are up to a lot. There's a lot of jet bikes flying around and all that stuff. But there's always it's the same thing. The focus has to be somewhere in the narrative. But there was still a lot of White Scars there. So this is what my other group of White Scars, Jagatai's taken all the bikes out to do his sorties forwards. This is the force that's defending an other part of the wall, which is, every bit as important as another piece. So, yeah, something slightly different, but with some of the flavour and feel, I think, of White Scars. So, should we start? Let's dive in. We probably should start with just looking at the White Scars a little bit. So what rules have they got here? Swift action. On any turn in which a unit with this special rule ends the movement phase at least 6 inches or 12 inches if the unit is a bike or jet bike from the point where it began the phase, it may, until the beginning of its controller's player's next turn, re-roll failed to wound rolls of 1 with all attacks. So that's a nice bit, a nice bonus there for being constantly on the move, shifting position, and I'm trying to keep that as an essence of the White Scars. I have the Storm. What we got here? You got +1 to the results to seize the initiative, which is always nice, as well as to the first reserves roll of each turn. Don't necessarily lean into that second one, but there's always options with this kind of army to be able to do that once or twice. But it's not the major part of this. Laugh in Death's Eye. You may not select more heavy support choices than fast attack choices. That one's always a pain for me because I love heavy supports, and everyone should too. And then Born in the Saddle, which is bike and jet bikes have skilled rider, which will not apply to this army at all. On top of that, we have power glaives. So any characters may have a power glaive for 25 points. Some units may have them as well. So this is, you can either use it one-handed at strength of user AP3, or you can use it two-handed at strength of user +1 and AP2. And then they also have a Cyberhawk, and that can be given to a Praetor, and there's also a unit on bikes that can have it. Can't remember what it's called at the moment. But basically it's a token that sits on the table, doesn't really interact with the game as a token, but any unit with the infantry type and the Legiones Astartes White Scar special rule that is firing upon an enemy unit which has at least one model within 6 inches of the token may reroll failed to hit rolls of 1. Any such unit assaulting such an enemy may reroll the dice to determine the charge range. And he is placed by the owning player at the beginning of their turn, so it moves around the board. So this means, in conjunction, if you are moving your 6 inches with Eye of the Storm, Swift action, that means you'll be getting +1 to hit and reroll hits of 1, reroll wounds of 1 with infantry against any unit which has a model within 6 inches of that token. So very useful. Either putting it in and getting a number of units and utilising various units of yours to whittle down various units of theirs, or if you've got that big target, okay, the something like a Spartan, say, and you do manage to get around the flank of it, and you do need to do those hit points, and you've got a unit with melter guns, then you can re-roll in the hit rolls of 1, can sometimes just be enough to do that. Those kind of things. It's just a good rule for 10 points. Did mean I have to have a Praetor. I wasn't going to have a Praetor. I was going to have this army led by a champion, but just having that in there, because I'm not going to use a Rite of War. As I was writing the list, I realised didn't really have to. It wasn't really relevant in what I'm doing. Now, looking back at it, maybe I could shift things around a bit, but no, we're going to go with it as it is. I'm not too worried about that. I've just lost my page, which is always good. Cool. So, yeah, the army will be led by a Praetor in Terminator armor, with a combi belt, a Paragon blade, mastercrafted digital lasers, and a Cyberhawk 195. It's a Praetor. He does what he does. And alongside that, because librarians, Stormseers for White Scars are so cool, I thought, yeah, why not? Let's have a Stormseer. They'd be there right at the end. Level 2, haven't decided what discipline yet. I think I'd have to play a couple of games just to work out exactly what I wanted to do. Whether I wanted some damage, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably have some more trickier magic, I think, because he's going to be held back a little bit. So Artificer armor, force weapon, melter bombs, and a refract field. Melter bombs just in case. So 2 HQs, nice and simple. Everyone knows those ones. They do what they do. I was having a look at a couple of others, but because of the nature of the army list, it's hard to fit them into positions within the army. So we're going to leave those at those. Then we have, what do we have? 1, 2, 3 units of 10 tactical Space Marines with bolters in rhinos, and those rhinos have hunter-killer missiles. So 10 Space Marines in a rhino with a hunter-killer missile on top of the rhino. It's going to be a mobile force. 5 tactical support Marines with plasma guns in a rhino. Let me just check the points on this. I will say that if you are going through this trying to judge all the points, that oh no, that's fine, that's cool, he's on there. It's a rough list. It's about right. There could be a little bit of tinkering going on. So 5 tactical support Marines with plasma guns, because when someone brings out their Terminators, you absolutely have to kill them, and they've got a Rhino to get them into position, and he also has a hunter-killer missile. And then 5 veteran Space Marines. And they have got 2 combi melters, 2 melter guns, or the rest have got combi melters, should I say, 2 melter guns, machine killers, because tanks can be a problem, and a rhino, and that rhino has a hunter killer missile. So I've got 1, 2, 3, what have I got? 1 to 5 troops choices there. Obviously, support squad is a support squad and all that. But there's 5 troops choices, all in rhinos. So they can all move around the board. They've all got a little bit of protection as well. Although rhinos can easily be popped, it means you're not shooting small arms at them until they are popped. And there's other stuff here that you might want to be shooting at. In tacticals, 5 Ebon Keshik. So these are obviously the White Scars Legion specific unit, and they are Terminator armor, going for Cataphracti because Cataphracti is cool. And again, kind of drives against the narrative of, would do that with a Praetor as well because he's with these guys, drives against the constant narrative of the White Scars, which I kind of like a little bit. And they are chosen, they have Stubborn, Feel No Pain 5 up, which I always forget, that's pretty cool. The Karash, so they never count as a scoring unit, however, enemy player never scores any victory points for their destruction. So they can be thrown forwards in games there might be some games where the Praetor has to kind of distance himself from them and send them off to do what he needs to do. But if he is with them, they have the Chosen Warriors special rule, so they can all accept and issue challenges as well. So you've got a bit of manipulation, which is quite a useful rule at times, to have the option of there to draw out characters and wail on the unit whilst that character's held up a little bit more. So yeah, 225 points base. They come with Power Glaives, which, as I said earlier, so two-handed are going to be Strength +1, so Strength 5, AP 2. Hitting on initiative, so if you're going against other one wound Terminators, you are getting those hits in first, which is never bad. I would give one of them a Power Fist and Combi Bolter, just because, and Grenade Harness in there as well for shizzles. But the Power Fist is just in case, always just in case you've got a couple of Power Fist attacks to be able to do, the Dreadnought or what have you that you might get stuck upon. I think it's always good to have an option in there. But yeah, I kind of like them. I've never played against them. Would love to see them on the table, and they are such a cool unit that I kind of would have them anyway. But you also they're my one real combat option in this list, which I don't hold much hope for it because it's one combat option, but it at least keeps the opponent honest. If you can keep their vehicle alive, then that means they've got that threat range to come out and kill something, even if they die afterwards. You're not giving up the point for them, which is brilliant. But also they can do a nice little job. There's only 5 of them. It's cool. Then a Contemptor Mortis Dreadnought, 2 carries assault cannons, and the Havoc launchers on top. Why the hell not? Again, was kind of writing this list thinking, actually, have I got enough guns to deal with troops? And then have I got enough guns to deal with tanks? And the Mortis does troops particularly well, and it's great. Contemptor's Mortis is a great anyway. And then alongside them in the elite section is 5 destroyers, and these are just kind of because I think they're cool. So we've got 2 Toxiferan Flamers in there. So if you're not that aware, Toxiferan Flamers are template strength 4, AP 5, poison 3+. They're in the Sayakana rules. Wound rolls of 6 at AP 2, and any successful hit will remove. Was it successful hit, or might be have to do a wound? Will remove a psychic blessing from a unit, which is a nice bonus. They are in a Rhino with a Hunter Killer Missile. So again, I've got 6 infantry units or 7 infantry units with the Keshig. They'll get into them later, but the other 6 have got Rhinos, all with Hunter Killer Missiles. First turn, if you've got a target you can launch at, you can bring down some Dreadnoughts with them, or you can save them for a little bit later if you want, pop smoke, that kind of thing. For the destroyers as well as for the veterans and the I'll get into that in a minute, actually. Tell a lie. So that's a unit of 5 destroyers. Again, we're on Terra. Everything's being thrown in. Fast attack. So I want 3 of these because I want 2 heavy supports. So the Kaisergun Assault Speeder, which is their own speeder, which is it's pretty cool. 2 Reaper autocannons on that. It's got deep strike, outflank, strafing run, grav, backwash. It's just brilliant. 105 points. It's cool. And he has 2 Hunter Killer Missiles, shockingly enough, on that one. So 115, it's not bad. Then a Javelin Attack Speeder Squadron with 2 Javelins in, with Pinot Multi-Melters and Hunter Killer Missile on each. And then a third selection, which is a single Javelin Attack Speeder with Pintle Mounted Multi-Melter and Hunter Killer Missile. Because, hey, when you want to kill tanks, it's quite a decent way to go about it. They've got cyclone missile launchers on them as well. It's not like they're restricted to just doing that, but they're too good for their points. They're so good javelins. 70 points each is ridiculous for that maneuverability. Then into heavy support, we've got a Sikaran Venator tank destroyer. It's a fast tank, so it all fits in with that play. The main gun is a bit hit and miss, but when it hits and can stop super heavies from shooting you because it reduces their effectiveness that much, then it's cool. And yes, it fits in. And then a Spartan for the Eben Keshig. I'm sure you were all aware that there was going to be a Spartan in there as soon as you got the Eben Keshig, but Armored Ceramite Flare Shield and a Hunter Killer Missile on top as well, because why not? So that obviously has the dude in, but you may be aware, those might be aware that you're a few points short there. Well, we've got a Lord of War. We've got a Typhon heavy siege tank to throw in there. Something that doesn't necessarily shout from the rooftops that it's a White Scar vehicle, but Super Heavy's move 12. It's got a big gun on the front. It's not like its range isn't huge, so it doesn't sit at the back of the table and just plink, plink, plink. You have to be within range to use it. If you want to get to the back of the board, you've got to push up the table a little bit. But it's cool. It's super cool. And it has the ability to wipe out squads, which is nice. One thing it does do is it forces demon players to move about because of the strength 10 and the lesser demons being outright killed if they take a wound. It's a great tank. The Typhon's a great tank. I haven't seen a lot of them. It's, back in the day, it used to be like 100 points cheaper with Armored Ceramite. This one's got Armored Ceramite and a Hunter Killer Missile, of course. But even at 420 points, it's still got a use. And particularly if people are cowering in cover, it means you can go and reach them and touch them. So, yeah, let's run through that again. So, Librarian, Praetor in Terminator armor, 3 units of 10 TAC Marines in Rhinos, 5 TAC supports with plasma guns in Rhino, 5 Vet Space Marines with 2 metal guns in a Rhino with machine killers, 5 Eben Keshig who will be in the Spartan with the Praetor. The Librarian can then either join them or he can get in with the vets or the tax as needed until there's space in another squad and he can jump across. It's a little bit, that's one thing, there isn't a huge amount of units to be able to put him into, but depending on his role he can fit different places. 5 destroyers because they're freaking cool. 1 Kazagan assault speeder, 1 unit 2 javelins, 1 unit 1 javelin, say the Spartan, the Sikaran and the Typhon. And the army plays fairly obviously, I think. I say that. So we talked. I mentioned earlier, you've got the special rules. You've got +1 to seize, which is always cool. You've also got +1 to the first reserves roll of each turn. There's not a lot here that has to go in reserve or needs to go in reserve. But with the javelins, the Kazagan assault speeder, you've got some good options for reserve there that you can utilise. So if you do want to jump, if you want to keep something back to get that flank early on, particularly with the Kazagan, early on, turn 2. If you're going first, it means they've only had 1 turn to move, and you can get the opportunity to get some good shots in there. Obviously, the deep striking in a javelin might not be a bad idea. They've got outflank as well. So you can, depending on the position of the game, if you really want to get at a tank, round a flare shield, that kind of thing, there's potential there that you can drop one of those in and not lose too much from the list, but still maintain that option. It gives you a nice little bit there. If you're up against an army that has, all armies have got a limited amount of anti-tank. Some will have more than others. Obviously, some will have slightly less and struggle in that, and they'll be relying on things like combat. Well, if that's the case and someone's equipped to deal well with infantry, you can keep everything in tanks. That's not a bad option for a turn or two. Currently, as we stand, the official missions don't have much in the way of progressive scoring. It's all scored at the end of the game, so tanks buy you that time potentially. Also, while you're in the tanks, you're more manoeuvrable, so you can get into the right places in the board that little bit quicker. If you're If you're worried about combat, then the tank gets blown up. Yes, you may take some damage, but you're out of it next turn. So there's lots of things you can do with regards to the tank there. With having the Spartan and the Typhon, you've actually got a bit of mobile cover as well. So attack squads, cool. Right, people blow them up. All you need to do is keep the odd attack marine alive for the rest of the game. You can score objectives. That's pretty cool. Your support squad and your veterans are going to be the kind of units, and your destroyers, particularly the kind of units that you want to use to do a specific job. And if the enemy has something like a big unit of 10 Terminators that are going to deep strike at some point, they're going to want to stop your plasma guns from being able to run up and just rapid fire into them, because that's not cool. Or even your destroyers run up and roll lots of dice and maybe get sixes and have AP2, poisoned hits as well on you, with flamer templates scoring lots of hits. So what you want to be able to do then is keep them alive. So if you've got the first turn, you can move up either the Typhon or the Spartan. You can leave the Rhino behind it to gain cover if you want, or you've also got the option of popping smoke, using terrain to stay outside, and holding them back to the turn they move forwards. Not always easy to do, and sometimes you have to use the bait to do that. Like things like that, Plasma Squad, they drop out, they do what their job, and then they die. That's fine. Because if they're forced to use shots on that you don't want them to, they don't want to. Say they've, if you've got a low to middling amount of anti-tank, well, rhinos are annoying enough that they might have to fire a few shots at them, and because of the nature of not being able to split fire from units, that's drawing attacks away from your speeders or your Sicaran or your Spartan or your Typhon. It does add up. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is going to win every game, but you have got that option there. And there might be some games where the veterans and the melter guns aren't as useful, and then you can utilize them up front as your distraction card effects and whatever. A melter gun's still a melter gun at the end of the day. And you've still got things like the Contemptor Mortis. Like, again, if they haven't got a lot of tanks, if they've got a lot of infantry, they've got to worry about the Mortis firing out a shed load of shots that do a lot of damage against infantry. The Typhon, no one wants to take a direct hit from a Typhon. They don't want your assault tank turning up and then the Ebon Keshik coming out and doing a number. Meanwhile, they've got javelins flying around, launching shots at you, and your troops are your troops, but your troops will win your game. All the while that's going on, if they don't kill your troops, you can go and stand on 3 or 4 objectives as well. So it feels like there's a bit of a balance in that army, which will reward good play, relies on its movement, which is part of that rewarding good play. It's not a gun line at all. It can pack a little bit of a punch. If I'm coming up against a lot of armor, I've got what? Let's count them all, shall we? So Typhon, Sicaran, Spartan, 3 javelins, 2 Kaisergun's got 2 hunter killers. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've got 14 hunter killers. Maybe that's over the top. Maybe after a game or two you decide not to do that, or it's not as much fun. But if they've got Contemptors out there, maybe that's what you need to glance off Contemptors. Maybe you can get around the side and get some penetrating hits. And sometimes it's not necessarily about destroying them in one go. Sometimes it's shaking them so they can't shoot you as effectively, or immobilizing them, or what have you. But you've got rhinos flying around all over the place. You've got hunted killers aren't, they're good, but they're not great. Let's make no odds about that. But if they've got a lot of a tank, the Typhon can still shoot them. The Venator can shoot them. The Spartan's got your las cannons on. Your javelins can be used. They've got multi-melters, so there's 3 there with multi-melters. If they're light vehicles, your Kizagan can get over there. Your Mortis to do the same thing as well. And then you're following it up with your veterans. And again, that might be the case of you have to barrel them forwards, jump them out, and do their job, and know they're going to get beaten up afterwards, but you can counter-attack from there. So I feel like if someone brings on a flyer, you know what? Cool. The reason I didn't take a flyer in this, and I was looking at it, if this is a Siege of Terror game, then the traitors would have had air superiority by now. So I was thinking the only way I would include any form of flyer is if I didn't put it into flying high, if it came on hovering. And that may be, A, you'll get tempted not to do that, but B, it feels like a bit of a kind of push, a little bit of a stretch, so I decided not to do that one. The javelins I was fine with, that's cool, they can be small enough to be hidden and whatever. So my anti-flying is limited, but actually I do that quite a lot in games. You know, I'm like, cool, if something comes on, does its job, let me worry about everything else. If I've got shots at it, I'll keep plinking shots at it. You know, if you've got if you know there's plenty of if there's a flyer coming on, and you haven't got that much to shoot at with your hunter killers, you can hold them back because flyers tend not to have the highest armor value, and if you fire enough, you will roll sixes to hit. So you can put pressure on anyway there. But yeah, if someone comes running at you with lots of stuff, have you got enough to slow them down? I don't know, but that's when you sacrifice stuff. That's when sometimes you get out your rhinos and use your rhinos as a wall. It's a great old tactic. I used to see it plenty of times in 40k, and it still works just as well in 30k. So you've got a lot to play with, I think, with that army, and it feels White Scars to me. It feels like you're moving at least 6 inches with everything every turn. Nothing in there wants to just stand still. Like, you know, it can, but it doesn't feel like anything in there should, that's the essence of White Scars for me. It's always being able to move. Now that doesn't mean you can't have all the stuff that doesn't move so much, obviously, but that swirling mass of fighting, and obviously all within that as well. When you do have that one target you really need to hit, I completely forgot about the Cyberhawk, because the reason I did upgrade the Praetor was basically for the Cyberhawk. Yeah, you get a few extra little bits with it as well, so it's not like it's a terrible decision. But when you absolutely need to kill that knight, for instance, and you know that you're relying on the las guns from the Spartan plus another unit, well, you can drop that hawk down next to it and concentrate all your hit rolls on that and re-roll any ones. In turns where you don't have to do that, but you know you want to clear an area, you maybe drop it down between 2 or 3 units, and you start to clean house on those units, because even 10 bolt guns, 20 bolt gun shots, re-rolling ones, it starts to add up. So if someone's on an objective with 15 tactical marines left, put it down, fire, 3 sets of tac marines all rapid firing to them. That's a decent amount of extra saves. Like, what's that? So 60 shots rapid firing, so that's potentially 10 re-rolls, if the number gods are favouring you there. That's before you get to things like, important on your melters, your plasmas, that kind of stuff. It's a cracking little rule. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And that I think I was just looking through things like demons. I think you've got plenty of mid-range kind of firepower there. You've got maneuverability, which we've said again and again. Like against demons, you need to be a little bit controlling where they can come, but also to be able to maneuver around the battlefield, to be able to deal with certain things. Lesser demons are not going to like a Typhon, that's for sure. And they're not going to like javelins running away from them. And javelins being -2 to hit in combat, like demons' weapon skills, not great. So, they'd be 5s, wouldn't they? Because they're vehicles. That's not necessarily an issue, but still, bigger demons don't have a lot of attacks, so it doesn't take much for the dice to swing a lot in your favour, and you survive fights you don't think you necessarily should survive. But yeah, I would be. This is Terror as well, so there's no compulsion. There's nothing in me that would stop to say, cool, sorry, 10 tactical dudes, You have to stand in front of these units and stop them being able to get past you for a turn. That is your job. We're at the Siege of Terror. That's what is needed. Cool, I'm going to run these 3 rhinos up and block this space because, oh no, I lose my rhinos. Doesn't matter. You're in the final stages. So yeah, that's my what if I was going to the what if event with a White Scars Legion. The more I look at it, the more I want to do it, which is a very dangerous thing. Maybe I'll have to befriend a White Scars player and borrow it, because it looks like it could be a fun list, and I'm sure it would go through a few revisions and play around with things. But I just think there's enough there, and I like this Typhon. As I say, you don't see them around as much as you used to, but they're still very good tanks. The Ebon Keshig, I think, could do a job. I'd really like to see them in the game, actually. I think they could be surprisingly useful. 2 attacks each. Yeah, so you're talking 15 attacks on the charge with their Strength 5, AP 2, using them two-handed blades. That's nothing to be sniffed at. I like that, with all the extra rules as well on there. I think could be quite cool. But yeah, I've got to find a better way to get out of these episodes because I feel like I just run out of steam. But that is the army, as I said, I would take to the What If event if I was going. I say it's probably being played right now. Let me know what you think of the army, whether you completely disagree with me, whether you think it's got legs, whether you're interested in something like that. Because it's always good to hear back from you guys. Always good to kind of know that I'm on the right lines with these segments as well. I know the last segment kind of went down all right, actually, which is good. I plan on doing a few more. There was an event that was delayed, the Isfahan event, which I'd worked out an interesting list that I would take to something like that. It has slightly more of a directed narrative. Obviously, the greetings might when you get there, but the Isfahan narrative is the campaign that's in the book, so we can read about that. I won't know about the greetings one until we see what they're doing with that. So I have to play around that a little bit, and maybe I should have asked the guys if I could have a pack. In fact, yeah, why not? Actually, I'm not going to do this like every show. I'm going to do it every now and then. But if you have an event coming up, give me a bit of notice. And particularly if there's a strong theme narrative, kind of something quirky about it, then maybe get in touch with me and I'll kind of have a look at what I would do for that event and how I would change things up. And maybe I'd go even further and have a bit of narrative. Like there's a background narrative to what I do, but maybe a little bit more. Who knows? Depends how much time I've got and how organised I am. You'll all know I'm not the most organised person. But yeah, if you have an event coming up that has something about it like that, then get in touch. And I won't promise I'll do it, but maybe I'll look at doing some different lists for different events, because it's quite a fun exercise to look at what I would take if I was doing different armies. But B, it also gives you a bit more of an insight into when you start to build lists with an army. It's that old adage, like in Warhammer, it was all about artillery. Now, anyone who played against Empire or Dwarfs hated cannons, because cannons always one-shotted your big monster and the dude riding him. Unequivocally, it always killed them. The Dwarf and Empire players knew that their cannons never killed or one-shotted the people you needed them to one-shot. And it's amazing how, being on the other side of the table, when I started playing with dwarfs for a couple of events, and I'd be cannon, and you'd see the opposition's face go, oh, and I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It never does anything. Your perception is so skewered by your experiences, and shifting up can be a really cool thing to do. It can also then it can affect the way, because you understand a little bit more about the tolerances, the variance, which is a big thing that about dice. Like I saw an Instagram post where a woman is learning 40k, and she put up about odds because she's a statistician and how likely things are. But more important than how likely they are is like how likely they are around that event. So what is the scope? What is the spread of how much luck do you need to really fail? That kind of thing, depending on what you're rolling, of course. But having a little bit more appreciation of that, not necessarily understanding, sometimes appreciation in game of that can change the way you build your list. You can not worry so much about something, or you can realise actually that unit does do really well in that circumstance. So, yeah, that's what I'd do. I would probably actually here's a good idea. We'll go a step further. I would probably paint them in the classic paint colours as well. I am a big fan of mixing up paint schemes, I'm sure you guys know, but I love the White Scars white and red, and I think sadly I think this kind of play style is a real classic White Scars play style, but is one that a lot of people don't associate with the White Scars anywhere near as much as they should do. And so I feel that by having a classic white-red colour scheme, it creates that stronger bond. Sometimes when you take an alternate colour scheme or a less obvious colour scheme into a legion, it can come across that this is a specific part of that legion and therefore is slightly off kilter anyway. And then when you let me think of a good example of this. Say taking a really aggressive assault Imperial Fist army and then painting them in the back and having Sigismund with them, that kind of thing, and leading into that Templar aesthetic. That's super themey and fits well within an idea. However, it almost stereotypes you into that idea as well. So, they're black. Are you doing? So if you have a lot of black on Imperial Fist, people assume you're doing the Templars. So it becomes that kind of acceptable stereotype that's outside of the norm. I think by doing this with the classic scheme, it reinforces that it's just a part of the Legion. So I would do the classic scheme. Also, it would really make the Ebon Keshig stand out. There's a question to be asked about the Praetor leading the Ebon Keshig, but I don't think it's much of an issue. I think they can still earn their way back, their atonement, whilst the Praetor is with them. You could even have your background have some sort of link between the two. You can have it not necessarily brothers or anything like that, but old, Legion mates who divided and fought each other, tried to stop each other going the way they went, that kind of thing. Or you could just have the fact that this is the Battle for Terra and they know none of them are getting out of this kind of thing, and go from there. And maybe that's where I would build my Praetor in. He's got this group of Ebon Keshig, and just the very fact that they are going to be going in fighting, he almost agrees to atone them beforehand, because they know none of them are coming out of it anyway, so they are going to sell their lives for Terra. So I kind of like that. But the Ebon Keshig would look great within that force as well. So whether you then put the Librarian in as well, I don't know. Maybe he sits with the other squads, wait till someone dies and jumps around. I think it depends on what discipline you go with him there. And I say I'm not 100% sure on that, and maybe I'm lacking. You can pull me up for that one. Tell me what discipline you would take on your Librarian for that. Cool. I am going to leave that there. That is my what if White Scars list. Feedback to me. Brilliant. thank you for listening to another episode of the Imperial Truth. As I said in the last section, if you want to feedback to us about anything, whether it's the last section, you want to give us some advice, some ideas for new topics, some hopes and dreams, what you think about Carbanda, anything else really, then you can email Greg at theimperialtruth.com. You can comment on Facebook, particularly on this show. If it's about the show, please comment on the show thread. That would be great. Imperial_truth on Twitter, at Child of Fang on Twitter, and at Child of Fang on Instagram. You can grab us there. If you really like the show, tell your friends about it. That would be great. You can leave a review on iTunes or wherever else you listen. That's all wonderful as well. Obviously, our sponsors, great. And if you really like the show, then we do have a Patreon and a coffee account as well, so you can find us there and support us if you wish. Plus, there is the link to merch as well, which I probably need to update, so please feel free to shout at me for that one. Now, I'm hoping the next show will be out on time. I am going to try and get organised and get a few little segments in the can, because it could be a busy time, and my days could well be very disrupted. So I'm going to try and get on top of that and get some stuff recorded. I've got a few messages to send to get people organised on that front, and hopefully some good sections coming up as well, with some really cool people. People that we've had on the show before, people we haven't, some painters and maybe some gamers and other things as well. Hopefully we'll be getting more. So we were going to try and do some exemplary battle reviews today, but we just haven't had enough time to get in. So that's sort of one thing I want to dive into. Hopefully we're going to get some new cool models. Hopefully, we got the Black Library celebration kind of was announced, what's going to be on there. So we have got Sigismund coming out for that, which we knew about. Plus, of course, Fafnir, Ran, and Zephan Monday. Here we go. We will be lavishing you starting from the Monday, the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. Pre-orders opening on Saturday, the 19th. So they've got some short stories and some other stuff coming out as well. But yeah, we got Fafnir, Ran, and Dominion Zephan, plus the what we got here. We've got the next map, which is Lionsgate, and we got all that. And Saturnine, is that in paperback? Yep, new paperback format, so that's cool. And Sigismund looking pretty sweet with all 2,500 copies. So make sure on the 19th you are on a computer if you want that, just before 10. Additionally, if you are trying to get the print on demand, the next 5 Heresy novels, I don't know where we're up to, will be available from the 26th of February until the 13th of March. So put a reminder in your calendar for that. But yeah, fingers crossed we'll see even more cool stuff before then. Yeah, there's lots of events popping up for Heresy as well, so that's pretty cool wherever you are. And we're pushing on towards Adepticon as well, which kind of the closer we get, like the more I'm regretting not committing to go. But additionally, understanding that I really can't take the risk with everything going on at the moment. Doesn't mean it isn't going to hurt when people are at Adepticon having fun and I'm not at Adepticon, especially for just a lot of people going. It's a real shame, but it's life. And I've put the money aside, I've pulled it back. It's been held there for a couple of years now. It's in its own bank account, waiting to be spent on a trip to America, and I might have to shove a little bit more money that way just to spend on more toys. Well, I don't need to spend on toys when I'm out there, but there's always something. You know what it's like. You pick up something while you're doing these things. Cool. I'm super rambling now, so we'll leave it there. And until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.